welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
Ben Reeves.
Oh, hello.
JV Gwaltney.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, we're covering a lot of games here.
Okay.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Andrew Reiner, you've played more Spider-Man, the game that just won't stop, and the hype, it's off the rails. It's off the rails that the train drove on, that Peter Parker once had to stop. It's a whole story. And then Banner Saga 3.
Yeah.
JV, you reviewed it?
Yes.
Awesome. Then we're going to swap some folks around and talk about sports. I think.
Ooh.
Now look.
Get out of here with those.
I'm half in that camp, but definitely we should cover it. I think there's interesting things to talk about. Madden 19, NBA 2K19, NHL 19, including, I don't know when it's going to happen, but just to liven maybe that segment up somewhere around there. Surprise special celebrity guest on this episode of the podcast.
Whoa.
He could come in.
What tier celebrity?
Let's say Command and Conquer Red Alert 3 cast tier.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right, just to give you the
like
ballpark.
it.
All right,
Okay.
perfect. And then community emails in the back half of the show. Even more wonderful celebrities in their own right, damn it. The developers of Overcooked 2. So it's Phil Duncan and Ollie DeVine from Ghost Town Games Skyping to talk about Overcooked 2, which is coming out August 7th.
Next
Surprisingly
Tuesday?
soon. Yeah. So let's talk about the development of that game, the first game, where they came from in the industry, and some surprising connections to Hello Games, JV Gwaltney from No Man's Sky fame.
Oh, his mouth just fell open.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's stunned. Okay, Spider-Man, Insomniac Spider-Man. Andrew Reiner.
Yes.
You wrote the cover story for this game. You hosted a panel at E3.
Uh-huh.
You have covered this game exhaustively, every nook and cranny of this thing.
Yeah.
And now you've played even more of it.
Yeah, and this is the last I'll play, I'm told, until the game comes out on September 7th.
So what did you play?
I played 4 hours of the game, which is, if I just stayed on the critical path, would it be roughly 2 hours, they said. And it's from the beginning of the game. So from booting up the game, from the PlayStation, home screen, going through the copyrights, there's a new Insomniac logo that involves webbing. I'll just leave it at that, everyone.
Really?
Big
I
spoiler.
love a good new logo.
We're just throwing out all the spoilers here.
Uh-huh.
The Marvel scroll that actually has like the comic pages.
Does it really?
It does.
Well, does it? So it has because the old movies had the comic pages, which was great, and then when they redesigned it to put the actors in there, slightly less
I
interesting.
didn't like it as cool.
Yeah,
As much.
I also didn't like it as cool, but the game has just the comic book characters. That's very
just
cool.
the comic
Best way to go.
pages. Yeah, it's very old school. And then I fell asleep for 6 hours and I didn't see anything else. So that's
perfect.
all I got.
Okay, well, it sounds like a good
That's a
journey.
bummer.
Okay, so what did you learn? What's new? Please give us details here.
So what's new outside of the cover story, which we ran in May? That was the demo that was at E3. That demo is now looking very vertical slicey. Basically, it seems like it was maybe staged to show off certain things, certain city activities, and then it culminates in you taking down Shocker in that boss fight.
People hearing that are going to say, "Oh, so the game's been downgraded."
No, it's basically just like kind of their proof of concept sandbox, like go do city activities. But the way they roll out on the critical path is very different than I thought it would be. All of it is sewn into that path. So you start out, you do like a story mission. You're going to take down Kingpin. That's how the game begins.
Okay.
Spider-Man is 5 years in his prime.
And
he's been
got
doing
his
this a while.
He's got the old suit.
And a beer belly. Yeah. It's really weird.
It's basically Mr. Incredible. Yeah.
It's a weird decision on their part. But yeah, he's a proven hero of the city. He's been...
Or is he a menace?
He's been... we'll get into that. He's been battling Kingpin for a while. And he finally takes him down in this first mission. And like God of War games, where you are taking on a big boss at the beginning, where it's like just seriously like just two huge gods battling each other, it has that kind of feel to it in this boss fight, where you are knocking each other through walls, through ceilings, floors. It is a spectacle and a half when you take on Kingpin.
Okay, hang on. This is a high bar. I mean, you say God of War games in general. Are you comparing it to being on the quality level that is the Stranger fight from the new God of War, which is...
It's not that big where the earth is actually like cracking under your feet, but Fist Tower is being destroyed as you are throwing each other around in it. So yeah, I mean, quality-wise, in terms of production values, maybe, yeah.
Really?
Like, I mean, it is.
Wow.
It is a polished, beautiful-looking game, and it's super fun to play.
Shouldn't Spider-Man just like punch Kingpin once in the head and his neck would snap?
No.
Yeah, or you could just web him and throw him off the building.
Yeah, what is taking so long? I don't get
do
it.
it.
He's just a big fat guy, right?
Yeah, he's surprisingly strong.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Did you not watch the
deceptively
Daredevil
strong.
show?
I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
You got
he
it.
decapitates a Russian with a car door.
Oh,
During
wait.
that
Maybe
show.
I did watch more. I did see that
Yeah.
scene. Yeah. Okay. But still, not against Spider-Man, who, as Ben Reeves told me, is the second strongest in the Marvel Universe. Something
Next
absurd
to
like
me,
that.
yes.
Right.
Who's number one, actually?
I just said me.
Not you. No.
Who's not? I don't know. I mean, there's basically
Is it
they
Thor?
have their version of God, right? I mean, Hulk is traditionally very strong,
All right.
but if you get into the cosmic universe, like it's
Ben, you don't know what you're talking about.
Galactus and whatnot.
On Earth, though, Spider-Man's top 3?
No, I mean he's strong, but he's like compared to a normal man, very strong, but like not. When you're talking about like Hulk and Thor, like those guys are way
Okay.
stronger.
Okay. Well, now your story's for the holes. Anyway,
Yeah,
so you
yes.
take out Kingpin early on.
Yeah.
He goes
And
to
then,
jail.
Yeah, then it's like, okay, the open world, New York City's open to you, right? Like you can go web swing wherever you want. But when you look at your map, it's all static. It's fog of war. Like you need to go around the city and find these surveillance towers on top of buildings to link them up to Peter's phone. And then he can kind of send out a pulse to scan the area. And that starts showing you the side activities, little things you can do.
So it feels Ubisoft-y.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, yes, it's very much like Assassin's Creed, where there are these points of interest around the city, which is sizable, that you web swing up to show you things to do. But even at that early stage in the game, once you do that, it's not like Assassin's Creed where you see all the side stuff. You have to unlock that stuff along the critical path. And they do a really nice job of like sewing in like finding your first backpack, taking down your first city crime, and they all have really nice cutscenes and little story beats tied into them. A really nice flow. And once you do one, then they start populating across the map. But by hour 4 in the game, I still haven't seen a lot of the stuff, those side activities that were in that E3 demo.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Do the side activities seem like they're going to be fun to play multiple times?
That's one of my big questions right now is their staying power. They did say that as the game goes on and new characters are introduced and new things happen in the story, that they'll change. So there'll be new ones introduced. So that I like that answer on their part. But of the city crimes I did, they're very quick. They don't last long. They are repetitive in terms of this one's a storefront. Next one I go to, it's a storefront, but it turns out one of the guys is next to a car and it turns into a getaway. So it kind of morphs.
Okay. And I just looked at a lot of the footage and just seeing Spider-Man riding on top of that car trying to take him out. It looks very, very cool.
Yeah.
Rather than just
it's-
like run after this car.
That's what I'm
type of
saying.
thing.
It looks beautiful. That's kind of a quick timey event. Not the most exciting gameplay. The moment itself is exciting, but
Yeah.
it's probably one of the easier things you end up doing in the game. But the way the story unfolds, I thought was probably the biggest takeaway for me that I was surprised by. In our cover story, they said that it's as much Peter's story as it is Spider-Man's.
Right.
And that's true in comics a lot of the times, but video games, the Batman games don't really focus on Bruce at all.
Yeah.
That's an answer. I was like, yeah, he might be in a couple cutscenes, but I doubt they're really going to focus on Peter.
That just means Aunt May is going to be caught by some villain at some point.
Yeah,
She's gonna
it
be
could
like,
be-
oh God,
Yeah, someone he knows is put in
Yeah.
jeopardy, but no, that's not the case. They actually do really slow things down. You experience a day in the life of Peter as he goes to work at a lab for an employer. I will not spoil. This is a big
Interesting.
reveal in the game. But as you're in the lab, you're wearing the lab coat. You can freely walk around it. It looks like a really lived-in place. They even have like a little weight room, like a corner of the lab is just like a running machine, a treadmill, and then like a bunch of weights that people are lifting. But you can kind of look around. There's details everywhere.
It feels like a Quantic Dream game, like sliding into the
Kinda.
middle of this Sunset Overdrive game.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating. There's tape recorders you could pick up and listen to like people talking about the work they're doing there, or the work, how great Peter is at his job, stuff like that. So there's, their universe building there, but then you actually do science.
What?
Yeah. So the first one you do is you pick up this circuit board and you have to connect the servo link. So it's basically like there's a start and an end, and both have like static on them. And then there's like a grid, and you have to figure out with a set amount of pieces that you have how to make the link. And it's kind of cool because some of the
it's
pieces
like
will be
Bioshock?
like, yeah, kind of like
Bioshock
it's a mini game that you do.
Okay.
But you get research tokens for that when you complete them, and research tokens can be used to purchase new abilities, powers, mods for your suits themselves. So you're going to want to come back here as the game goes on.
And do more mini games.
Do more mini games. And then there's another one that involves the spectrometer. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But it's basically like you're looking at waveforms that are kind of in a slide form in the game with different lines on them.
Uh-huh.
And they're spaced at different intervals. And you have to figure out, there's one at the top that you need all of the lines below it to match. So you'll have like 3 sides below it, and you have to figure out with a set amount of pieces how to line up those lines to reveal like the polymer that he's working on, or like it gets really techy, but it's like, okay, this is a moment where you are being Peter as just Peter, right? And it's the mini games are pretty fun. I think Insomniac's always had decent mini games in their Ratchet games, and these kind of follow suit. And the story stuff that happens around that is really interesting, and it's really slow moving, but they are doing a good job of building the universe.
Yeah, on that same note, one of the things that I was curious about when the game was first announced, my big concern was like, okay, how is this game going to, make itself different in the wake of like Arkham? I feel like that was the big question. I don't think I was alone in that. And what I noticed while watching, sort of the footage and like our coverage during the cover story was the civilians throughout the world. Like in Arkham, it's always sparse. There's always some narrative excuse, like Batman's just fighting criminals on these bare streets.
It's too cold during Christmas. No one's outside.
Yeah.
So silly.
But in Spider-Man, like, did you interact with the civilians any? Because you said that like you could take pictures with them and stuff. Like, does it feel like a world that you inhabit?
Oh yeah,
like
so,
walking around.
After you take down Kingpin, you want to celebrate. Like Spidey's like, I did it. I finally did this after 5 years. I want to celebrate. He wants to do that with Aunt May. And he tracks her down at Feast. She works at Feast for Martin Lee, who's running the shelter.
And he's Mr. Negative.
Correct.
Okay.
You don't know that at this point. He's just this really nice guy.
Forget you learned that.
Correct. So you go in there and Feast, and you can freely walk around this space. And it's huge. It's 2 stories. There's a lot of things. Again, just like his lab, a lot of things to see and do in there. There's like a TV playing the news. You could sit and listen to it. There's a newscaster telling you about like what's going on in the city.
And it's like a different animation set. You can't like just shoot a web anywhere.
No.
It's like you're locked into Peter mode.
For passage of time, they always have him in different outfits. So now he's wearing like a different shirt and pants and all that stuff. And that changes throughout the game. I don't know how many he wears in total. I think it's 2 weeks. So you might have 2 weeks worth of clothing, which is kind of a cool touch, right?
Look forward to it.
But as you're walking through Feast, they wanted this place to feel like it's like a real place. And since Peter goes there a lot of the people that work there or are using the shelter know Pete. So they will they'll be taking a sip from a soda and they'll be like, oh, hey, Pete, and then they'll have a conversation with him. And you're walking through this place and it's filled with people and they all want to have interaction with you, which is really cool.
I'm excited for this aspect.
Yeah.
It seems cool.
And there's more. Like you go upstairs into Aunt May's office and behind her is this wall filled with like children's drawings. And there's little touches where you can interact with all that stuff. And you find out like Pete made all these drawings when he was young and she's been hanging them up and saving them.
Oh, that's cute.
But these are just optional things. You never have to look at that. Some players may never even know you can go upstairs there if you don't take the time to just explore.
Do you think this aspect? I think this sounds cool. Is this aspect interesting for people who just want to play like an action game?
I wonder
just like,
about that
I just want a
crowd.
superhero game.
Totally.
What is all this like dumb Peter stuff?
It kind of.
Who is this idiot?
Yeah.
I think they really looked closely at the Uncharted games and those moments in those games where it's just like letting the characters just be characters and be real people is part of what it makes those games so successful. It's not just the production values. It's not like, just the world falling apart as Nathan's jumping around. You get to know these characters very well and you care about those relationships. So they are really building that up here.
And that's great. I just wonder with Reeves if there are people who just see these amazing shots of Spider-Man swinging through the crowd in the town and everything, and then they buy the game and it's like walking around a lab doing mini games.
I mean, that moment
hell?
like lasted for a while. Like that's not something you can just breeze through. You have to at least do one of these mini games a couple of times. And there is by the way, there is a skip button on the puzzles if you can't figure them out. So yeah, you could just be like, all right, I'm done with these.
Perfect.
I don't know if you'll get the tokens if you do that,
yeah.
but you can just say, peace out, I'm going to go be the web slinger.
What about the exciting web slinging? Anything new or surprising in the actions or anything like that?
So they were telling us all along there's no charge jump in the game. People wanted it from Spider-Man 2. That's
What
where
is
you
that?
can like crouch down.
Hold down the button and then you jump higher.
he launches higher in the air.
Okay.
They're like, no, we have a sprint button and you just jump and you can web swing right after that. Well, one of the upgrade paths, which is web slinger, is the third tier down. So this will be maybe mid game you get it, is the charge jump. So they listened to the community and put this thing in there, which I think is very cool. Another thing people really requested was being able to do tricks as you're web swinging. If you're just doing it and hitting R2 just to throw out a new web, he'll be spinning around doing things. But you can get, one of your upgrades you can get is tricks. So you hold down, I think it's triangle and X. I don't remember the exact buttons, but you hold down the buttons at the same time and he'll start performing different tricks like moonsaults and stuff like that.
Moonsaults?
Yeah, like the backflip kind of thing. But he's like getting experience points as you're doing that. So it almost kind of turns into a like an SSX or a Tony Hawk where as you throw out a line, you start doing tricks in the air to kind of mine experience. You're not getting a lot of experience points. It's like 2 points or 10 points.
Okay.
But that'll add up if you're swinging, 3,000 clicks across the city.
It looks better than like just jumping up and down constantly in Skyrim, though. Too, you're just walking all over the place. Like
they should add tricks to that. Where you're like flipping across the terrain.
Yeah, I think they definitely need it.
So yeah, that was really fun. The depth there was pretty cool to see. Like, there's stuff at like level 50 that you're unlocking, and at the end of my demo, I think I hit level 7. And that's a new thing too. Like, as you level up, there are set boosts that you get per level. So you might get like a 10% experience or 10% extra health, or you might do more damage in melee, stuff like that. So that's exciting on its own. Like just leveling up, you're like, ooh, what am I going to get? That's something you won't learn until you actually like ding, and then you're like, oh, sweet.
Right.
I'm more powerful now.
So overall, are you feeling more excited?
Oh, yeah.
Is it about what you expected, but it still just seems rock solid?
Yeah. Looking back at what we saw in May or April for the cover story, we were really excited, and it was like, that's proof of concept. Like that is their vision. Now we just need to see how it's all stitched together. And I got a good taste of that in this extended play session for like 4 hours. And man, I walked out of there just kind of like the same enthusiasm I had for the Arkham games. Like, I want to see where this story goes. Like, I was really latched on to the narrative as much as the gameplay.
Yeah.
Just because there are some big mysteries, some big bad things going on in the city.
Well, I guess we haven't talked about the overall mysteries, and like they released that story trailer at Comic-Con where they show, help me out, the lady in white.
Silver Sable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is it implied that she was the mysterious figure at the end of the E3 demo where Peter looks at the glowing person and he's like, oh, what are you doing here?
No.
That's not.
No.
Did you get up to that point?
I know who it is.
What?
Do you get up to that point though of like the jail?
No.
Okay.
Like, seriously, like I had one boss fight, unlocked, 3 to 4 activities, but there's still so much to go. Like, I don't even know. I can't even like ballpark how big this game's going to be. They basically said I played through the first act. But even on its own, it's like, what does that mean? How many acts are there?
Right. Well, the leveling you were talking about, that might give some
50.
hints. Right?
Yeah, that's the cap. I don't know if that's like they want people, again, like, do they want people to hit that as they play through the game the first time? There's 3 difficulty levels. I don't know if you're going to go back in or just mine experience to hit those levels.
Yeah.
But,
Did anything strike you from seeing that Comic-Con trailer, Reeves? Did you look at that one?
As
As a resident spider nut?
I avoided that trailer, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, I was because I just had the opportunity. Like, I was excited about this cover story, but I missed out on it. And Renner did an awesome job. But since I didn't go super deep on that, like I was like, I might just stay away from this because I know I want to play the game.
Yeah.
And I know it looks exciting. So I've caught in bits and pieces and
You've caught in bits.
bits and pieces. Yes,
you guys want to know
come
something
out
else?
in bits and burts, and I've enjoyed it. But
I don't know if we want to interrupt Reeves. He's really on a roll here,
Look,
right?
I'm on a roll. But yeah, this game looks awesome, and I'm excited because I feel like Insomniac hasn't had like a huge hit in a while. I feel like they've been a really consistent, awesome studio, and I like their output, but it feels like they haven't had a huge
They did a lot of VR stuff.
Yeah, that's still
Sunset was really good. But
Sunset was a really good
played
game,
it.
but it wasn't a huge hit. Right.
But think of like this year in particular with Spider-Man looking very promising, and then like the Spyro remaster re-release like within that same window, both in September. It's like September is Insomniac's month.
That's right.
Man.
They're going to make me an Insomniac, right? Yeah.
Renner, you were teasing that you know something super cool.
I played as Mary Jane Watson.
Oh,
for a
interesting.
sequence.
And was that cool?
It is.
Because they kept teasing, like, people are going to be surprised by her.
Yeah, so she, as our cover story said, was...
Does it turn out she's blonde? Is that why it's surprising?
That's it, yeah. Reeves, you're throwing me off, man. She's undercover, or not undercover. She's an investigative reporter. She's kind of undercover in the sequence that you're playing, where she's pretending she's someone else. I don't want to give away the whole context of this thing, but you're at the estate sale for Fisk, for Kingpin. So basically, they're selling off his stuff.
And Spider-Man wants a couch, or what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He's there to get that love seat for him and Mary Jane.
Very cute.
No, you're in there and as Mary Jane, and you're supposed to be doing this fluff piece on the sale, and the curator's walking you through it, and you're taking photos of stuff, and she's like commenting on everything like she's seeing, which is really neat. So you're like just walking around with the camera, taking photos, pretending you're doing the story, but you're actually looking for something else.
And she's the Professor Oak in Pokemon Snap?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Like 6,000 points. No, she ends up, something happens and Martin Lee's people show up, and this is the first time you see them, and they want something here too. And they, unlike Mary Jane, are doing this at gunpoint. So they're walking around just like, we're going to break everything. We're going to find this thing. At which point Mary Jane sneaks off and it becomes a stealth mission where you're ducking behind, Fisk's items, and the stealth actually works really well. Like, enemies have the meter above their head that starts filling up.
Okay.
They'll come investigate. They have different patterns. But the cool thing is the sprint button still works as you're ducking and sneaking, so you can quickly maneuver around the environment. It's really silky smooth.
So is it implied that all of Mary Jane's gameplay is going to be stealth focused, or in theory it's going to be a lot of like just walking around saying hi to people like Peter Parker segments?
I got two things from that. Like, yeah, they could lean on that a lot, but I also got there's a really cool puzzle I did in this moment that involved item and manipulation, where I'm grabbing stuff in the environment and trying to assemble something the right way. It's very cool. And again, production value is through the roof in the level of detail of the object you're putting together and just the environment itself. Like, there's stuff everywhere in there. But it could also lean on that too, right? Like, where it could be very much like she's sleuthing for clues or, trying to piece something together. So it could be both. And both elements I thought were very cool.
Yeah. September 7th. We should look forward to it.
It's under 30 days, around there, 30 plus days.
Wow. JB, you gonna play this thing?
Yes, I'm super excited. Like Reeves, I've sort of avoided like the trailers and stuff because I used to be really big into Spider-Man when I was a kid, mostly.
Just cartoon?
Yeah, just the Saturday morning cartoon and some of the comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been avoiding story stuff because I'm excited for this game.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. 36 days. That's
36 days.
Yeah.
Any concern about the writing? Any more lines like my own personal vengeance, as Leo Vader wisely pointed out a long time ago?
Yeah, there's one sequence where he's talking to Yuri, the police chief, and they have this shtick where he's the Spider Cop. He's pretending he's Spider Cop, and he does this for a long time in the game, where he does it in a gravelly voice too.
Huh. Okay.
I'm Spider Cop.
He does,
and Yuri hates it. Like, the best part is Yuri's just like, oh my god, he's doing this again. But as a player, you're like, okay, this is dumb. I'm with Yuri on this, like this is silly. Then he just keeps going. And then the next mission starts and he's still doing it.
Okay.
Is it like Christian Bale from Batman? Like that kind of...
I mean, he's not getting that low, but yeah, he's definitely doing that.
Any concerns about the amount of quips coming from Spider-Man at this point? I'm mining here. It's not going to be annoying.
I don't think so.
Who's a funny character in video games who isn't annoying? Like, genuinely funny and trying to be funny all the time.
Wheatley.
There you go. That's
Portal
the
2.
one character.
We've done it once, ladies and gentlemen.
I will say I did laugh out loud a couple of times. There's some legitimately good jokes in there.
Okay.
Or things that Spider-Man fans will pick up on and be like, whoa. What are you teasing? Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Very exciting.
But yeah, be excited. Like, that's the message of my article is be excited.
Bold headline.
Be very excited.
Okay. There we go. Spider-Man. Banner Saga 3. We should be excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
These are the strategy games. Ben Reeves, you love these things as well. And are they framing this as a trilogy?
Yeah, it's a trilogy.
So this is
the conclusion.
Very much so. To the point that I heard secondhand that you started playing this and said, oh, I didn't play Banner Saga 2. I don't play the first one, and you need to play Banner Saga 2.
Yeah. No, it's kind of the way I talked to Joe about it, because he talked to Dan, who reviewed the last two for us, and Joe was like, Dan says you'll be fine. Just jump in, because I'd played the first one but never played the second one. So I went and I started it up, and I was immediately lost. And I played like 15 minutes and then went back to Joe and I said, I feel like I'm jumping into like Mass Effect 3 without playing Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
Like it was that big of a gap. And I'm really glad I went back and spent like the 8 hours or whatever playing Banner Saga 2.
Okay.
Because I definitely would have been lost. It's definitely like it's presented as 3 games, but it's really just 3 acts of a single game.
I know that we're talking about 3, but what did you think about 2? Did you like 2?
Yeah, I like 2, but like it is virtually, and this is true for 3 too, but like they change nothing about the battle system throughout the entire series.
Horsemen.
I mean, they add units, but
things.
like the way that the game like plays on the battlefield is virtually the same.
And is it still solid?
Yeah. I mean, to me,
it's like Fire Emblem, right?
It's not quite as good as Fire Emblem or XCOM. It plays like a very lean version of both, like a combination of those games, like with like the weapon, rock, paper, scissors for the weapons, and then like sort of like you have the abilities that like one of them is straight up Overwatch from XCOM. Perfect. Like it's just called the same too. Yeah.
The one thing I liked that I always thought was pretty clever is like your health is also your strength. Mm-hmm. So like as people attack you, your health goes down and also your strength goes down.
Interesting.
So you're not as strong attacking, and vice versa. So it's like as the battle wears down, it's like both sides are a lot wearier and like not hitting as strong.
Barely punching each other.
I know it gets to that point where it's like, oh, why is my strongest unit only doing 1 damage? Oh, because he has 1 health. That's why. Yeah.
So I mean, that's the combat. The story stuff. Does it feel like consequences, repercussions coming through this thing?
Yeah, I mentioned Mass Effect 3 earlier, and it's exactly like that in the sense that like there aren't as many choices in this particular game as the other 2 because it's more concerned with making the choices that you've made through the first 2 games sort of count. So like throughout all of Banner Saga, there's been this sort of a meter at the top that's kept track of like the days when you're traveling.
Okay.
So like the first game, it's like 40 something days and it'll just like, it'll turn over and over and over. Well, for this one, instead of having like a meter keeping track of how many days you're traveling, it gets flipped. So you have like a countdown.
Until Ragnarok or like, something? Or what is it?
Kind of like until your supplies run out because like the game's split up into 2 parts where like basically the first part of the game is like Helm's Deep. Like you're trying to like protect this fortress from the forces of darkness, whereas the second half is concerned with the other team that's like doing a suicide mission to try and like, save the world. So you go back and forth between those, and like the countdown meters until like the fortress sort of falls.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that meter is determined, or that countdown is determined by like all the choices that you've made through the first 2 games. That's not to say that there aren't major choices in the 3rd game that determine the ending, because there are like a handful of choices where like, oh, I screwed up here. Like one of my characters is now dead. Like you still get a couple of those, but it's not like, there's not like 20 of them. There's like 5.
Okay. They save it for like 3 big colors to choose from at the end.
It's not.
I like that system.
It's not quite like that. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but same ballpark.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Reeves, I mean, what types of decisions are you making in the previous games?
Well, that was the tough thing is like, I remember like the things that happened, but the decisions you were making sometimes didn't feel like natural repercussions. Like the things that happened didn't always feel like natural repercussions. Decisions you make, you would like, I'm going to save this witch. And then like 7 days later, something would happen and she'd like steal your supplies or something, for example.
Why would you save a witch?
But less like, so it's more gameplay choices and less like huge story choices of...
Well, there were some of those too. Like, I don't know if I want to spoil anything, but like there's a decision you make about this bridge, whether or not you're going to save this bridge or not. And like that has
a bridge. I remember it.
Yeah, well, there's these people coming across the bridge and like you can destroy it to prevent their assault. Or not, but it's a kind of an important bridge to some people. And they don't want you to destroy it. It's like a sacred bridge.
Right. Okay.
So that's the kind of one of the decisions you might have made, and that affects obviously things down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there are other decisions. Like I agree with Reeves. I think I find it. I don't necessarily view it as a negative thing. Like I like sort of the unexpected quality of it. Like there's one, for example, I think this is in the first or second game. You come across a guy that you can recruit into, your caravan if you trust him. And if you do, like 10 days later or something, just out of left field, he gets drunk and like kills one of your other units.
Jesus
it's not like
Christ.
a major character, but like a smaller unit. And it's just like, what the hell, man?
That happened back then. Yeah.
Yeah, but I find those kind of compelling, but I can understand why they're frustrating, but it's different. I like the idea of like, there's a delay between like, a choice that I made and then seeing how it plays out. Like, I like that.
It seems cool.
Yeah. But I can understand how it could be frustrating too.
Yeah.
The choices weren't weren't why I was invested in this series to begin with. I really did like the world. The art's amazing. The art's gorgeous.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen pictures of
It looks like vaguely Don Bluth.
Right, Don Bluth's Vikings. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who was the artist for like Cinderella. Do you remember the Disney artist? Like that was one of the major inspirations was that
really?
artist. Yeah. But anyway, the art's amazing. I also thought the story and the world they created was really cool, and I wanted to know more about it. There's a lot of reading in this game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally, a lot of talking to people between the fights. But I thought that stuff was pretty interesting, and I hope they land the plane. I don't know where they got there, but I liked where it was going.
Yeah, I think they land it. I think they stick the landing. Like, it's still sort of like trenched in that same territory. I feel like a lot of fantasy has the problem, the Lord of the Rings problem, where it's like, okay, we're sort of settling down into this story where like all the fantasy races are coming together to try and fend off the great evil or something.
Right.
And like Banner Saga is in there too, but it plays around with that.
Okay.
Like it sort of toys around with that, but it still lands firmly in there, firmly in that territory, for better or for worse.
Right.
Here's a question for you. So it was supposed to be one game originally, right? Like they wanted to do one big game and they divided it up into 3. Does it show age like the Mass Effect trilogy? Like going back to 1 is rough, right? Like is there significant evolution between those, or is it all one kind of seamless?
No, for better or for worse, it is one seamless thing. Like jumping from 2 to 3, they introduce like a new sort of, the newest thing that they introduced to the 3rd game is that you can level up your characters, and everything transfers over from saves like 2 to 3 did, so you keep your levels for your characters and stuff, which I thought was kind of neat. Where you reach like level 10 with your character, and you get a new little system where you can like give them like a name, like a sort of like rank name or like a myth name or whatever it is, like Death Messenger or something, and like they'll get statistic boosts or a boost from that. Like if you invest enough skill points in that in that category. So Death Messenger, you get like 2 attack or 3 attack, boost, but that's the only new thing. Like the battles still play the same way, barring like the unit introductions. Like there are new units that are introduced every game, but the way that the game plays is seamless.
So you would say like if you like what you hear, start with 1.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like no matter what. Should they wait for the trilogy collection? Is that coming soon?
I feel like that's out.
Have they? Well,
I think so.
Because I know that like the original 2 were just recently released on Switch, right? Is 3 out on Switch? Do you know?
I think it is, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it is.
That seems like a good place to play this type of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Start
jump
with
in
1.
with 3. Yeah.
No, don't jump in with 3.
It's like Mass Effect people say start with 2. Right? Like that's a common thing.
I
disagree.
but people say it.
But people say that all the time.
Yeah, no, this is not. I am one of those people who started with 2, and I think that's a bad idea for Banner Saga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so review will be up very shortly on GameInformer.com.
It should be up by now.
But you're digging it.
Yeah, I like it.
You like it. That was very high pitched.
That's like a 7.
That was like a 7-ish kind of.
Try it again. Say that same line again.
What do you think of the Banner Saga 3?
It is a good, solid game.
There you go.
For the audio listeners, he's smiling like only the Joker is capable of smiling. I don't know exactly what this look is.
I feel like Banner Saga 3 is one of those weird things where Banner Saga 3 is technically, I think, the weakest game of the 3, but it's a strong ending, because it does that thing. It has breakneck pacing, like Mass Effect 3 did, so it doesn't really allow you much time with characters. It's just like, no, we got to go. And so it sort of loses sort of some of the world building and time that you get to spend with characters that was really emphasized in the first and second game.
Right.
For just like constantly pushing forward, and that's kind of unfortunate. But like, it's a great conclusion.
That's awesome. Yeah. Great to hear. Ben Reeves and JV. We're gonna talk about sports.
I'm out gross
now. You guys want to clap out? Okay, whatever. All right, game time, folks. Matt Burtz, Matt Cotto, Andrew Reiner is still here. Let's cover each and every sports game for the next 5 years. Let's boil it all into this segment.
Starting with rugby.
Please. Okay, no. Madden NFL 2019. Seems like the biggest thing, right? That's coming out kind of sort of this week, kind of sort of next week.
Yeah, I think it's like the Origin early access for PC users is on the 2nd, but then it doesn't come out, fully for everybody until the 10th.
And it's coming out on PC for the first time.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
How is it this year?
The game overall is good. I mean, you're going to recognize a lot of it. You'll see some new animations. There's definitely new stuff in there. I'm not to say that, but like in terms of I think what, really the positives that work for me is it's still about, having fun with the gameplay and whatnot. And, we can go into the other stuff, but it's, it's not miles ahead of last year's.
Okay.
That's
on
a
par
big
at
question.
least.
But yeah, it's definitely on par, and it's definitely, going places.
Yeah. Have you been playing Two Birds?
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
do
I
you think?
dug into the franchise mode, which I'm not as much of a fan of. They're kind of changing some stuff, and the systems that they're building that are based around team schemes and how you upgrade your players, I think it's a little messy. It's not really well thought out. It doesn't really match what's going on in the actual NFL. So that kind of stuff is bugging me as like a sim franchise mode guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, kind of just out of curiosity, what was the first Madden game you reviewed for Game Informer?
Review?
Yeah. Just to give this a legacy here. I think it's fascinating.
Kato and I reviewed them for like 10 years.
Really?
It would have
Yeah.
been, 2000 probably would have been the first opportunity, but I don't know if the late great Paul Anderson was doing it at that time, so
Okay.
maybe it might have been 2001.
But in that ballpark. That's crazy. Madden 2000 was the last Madden game that I played. That ludicrous intro is fucking awesome. And I picked up...
Obviously.
Yeah, I've been playing the new one on PC then. Because I heard such good things about the long shot mode.
Mhm.
Or like the story mode, which
no.
started last year. Is
No.
that
I liked
right?
it. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I played this one and I beat it last night. I really enjoyed it too. Does everyone just hate that? Like sports fanatics hate that mode?
I don't, I can't speak for Bert's. I
think
don't
it's
hate it.
awful.
I like
Really?
it. I like
Yeah.
going through it. I mean, I think it's somewhat lowered expectations in the sense that I think the performances are good.
Yeah.
Scott Porter and
I agree
Scotty
with
P.
that. Yeah, the performances are good.
And I think
Yeah.
the writing's solid. Like honestly, as far as video game
Yeah.
writing goes, this is well above par. This has honestly better writing than the first season of Life is Strange. For like a lot of those scenes, I swear to God, man. It's like these are believable
Email to
performances.
Ben at GameInformer.com.
Have at it.
Wow.
Man. Not saying Captain Spirit. That's a league above. I'm saying original Life is
I'll say
Strange
the
season 1.
gameplay's a little weird where
It's
you're using
awful.
like the force to move the ball
Yeah,
through
it's
the air in
awful.
slow
Yeah,
motion.
which they've
Wait,
taken out
what?
this year. This
Okay,
year,
good.
yeah, this year it's all about just regular Madden gameplay. Which
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought of that from,
It was really bizarre because I jumped in. It's like, all right, you're telling the characters, it's telling the stories of Devin and Colt here. It didn't really do a great job of catching me up to speed. So I don't know if people interested in this type of story mode in Madden, which I think there's that audience that want more of like that Madden story RPG type experience.
Yes.
But I probably regret not going back and playing last year's long shot because it jumps you in with these two characters and it's like they aren't connected. And I don't know who these people are. Like they do some live action setup in the beginning to say something about there was a reality show called Long Shot, but that was in the past. And it's like, I don't know what's happening. And not to spoil anything, eventually stories get a little more intertwined, but it kind of throws you in. Beyond that, throwing me in on the gameplay side, having not played a Madden game in 18 fucking years, like jumping into this thing, it'll give you like one prompt on the screen of like, don't forget about this. And then when they blitz this way, you gotta hit the right stick and then change your play this way. It's like, what? And
You got to get your nose in the playbook, man. Come on.
well,
Don't-
I would
don't
love
go
to.
for
I would
it.
love to even know what the controls are. But when you're playing long shot mode, if you pause it, there's no options even to look at the controls, no hints in there whatsoever. So it was just like grinding play after play of please try again, please try again, please try again. I would lose over and over again. It would take like 10 tries just to progress to the next story beat, which I was genuinely really enjoying just because the gameplay was just kicking my ass. You
The
guys
thing
didn't have
that-
that problem, I'd imagine?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But the thing that drives me nuts about it is like I like a mode like you mentioned RPG. I
Yeah.
want choice. I want to have like say over how my character develops, the kinds of things that he says and does.
Totally.
That's interesting to me. Just watching a movie with some good acting that with an implausible, ridiculous story doesn't do shit for me.
Right. Although,
I like sports movies. They all do the
I do
same
too,
thing.
but not this like, oh, you're gonna do a game show to see if
Guy
you can make it.
got
in
a
the
baseball
NFL.
bat from a tree that was struck by lightning, and
That's what I want. I'm totally with you. And there is like one branching decision, it seems, choice at the end of this long shot mode, which is
One.
I don't even know what it meant or what was
Yeah.
it was referring to. I won't spoil anything, but maybe for like next year's long shot mode, if they continue this storyline, they'll pick it up again. But what if I told you, Reiner, that Rob Schneider's in this one? He plays the general manager, and
he
it is
finally made
bizarre.
it. He finally made
It
it.
comes up on the screen. It's like that can't possibly be Rob Schneider in
The
Madden.
Rob
I knew he had a Madden in him.
Oh my God!
Yes.
he has a lot of good jokes about water bottles in this thing. He's
Yeah.
got it all.
The real cover star of
How many
Madden.
calls do you think they made to like agents and actors? Like, can you do no? All that's left is
Right.
Rob Schneider.
Just like the Happy
Oh, man.
Madison crew alone. It's like, all right, let's just go down this list. Steve Zahn passed on it. Did you enjoy Long Shot?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little disappointed. I mean, like you said, just sitting back and watching it, okay, I can be fine with that. But certainly, critically, I wanted it to be more about more NFL. Bringing the NFL again is a problem that they have with that mode. And, it's FIFA's The Journey mode has a similar thing where they try to bring in that flavor of the league, but it doesn't really work out. And so that and like the thing we were talking about with the choice. I mean, it's no spoiler to say that choice isn't really a factor in when you're playing this, even less so than in last year. And I was thinking they would go a step forward with the choice, but instead they just decided, they must decide it didn't work at all, so we're just scrapping it.
I don't understand why they can't have it be somewhat adaptive. Like they'll have you do a couple plays from like the first quarter of this NFL game, and then if you don't make a touchdown, it just says, please try again. Where it's like, it's not dependent on the story that I make a touchdown in this sequence. Like, just let it roll. Colony Wars, back on PlayStation 1, you could lose a mission. It would keep going through the story, Exactly. That's fun. It seems like it's capable of that, but they just do not let you do it. And especially towards the end, during this big game where it's like, all right, you're starting at the 20-yard line. You have to get all the way down there. You got to make that touchdown, and you just have to go quarter by quarter all the way through. It's like, this is the grand finale for this thing? It's kind of lame. Still, acting and performances and the storyline I was surprisingly invested in. I really enjoyed that.
One of 20 modes, so we got 19 more to go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Everything else, big changes we should know about this time around?
For Ultimate Team players, I think they're really going to like. There's a thing that was in FIFA's last year was like solo battle, or it's called like squad battles or something. Basically, it's a way to make coins in the early part of it, because you basically play games against the CPU and however you rank against those teams, which are based on real players' teams. So if there's some guy like Madden 123's got a really good team, they'll put that in this solo battles mode. You play it by yourself, and then however you rank at the end of the week, you can play like 13 games. However you rank at the end of that week gets you a coin and payout. So in other words, it's just another of the many ways that you can earn coins. Because people always want to
instead of buying.
Yeah, I don't want to pay money. I don't want to pay money. Well, I mean, like Madden's one of the best out there for weaving and putting together different ways to make coins, so
That's
you
good to
don't
hear.
have to spend real money.
Right. And your reviews on the site by now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, feeling good about it overall.
Yeah.
Solid Madden this year.
Oh, you're the game or my review?
I guess the game.
Just,
let's go with the
semantics
game.
there. The game, yeah. It's a solid Madden game. Again, I don't think it's going to blow your socks off, but I think, Ultimate Team players are in particular going to like, I think, the solo battles. I think, franchise, I am very interested to see how that shakes out for people, because I'm with Bert's, like the taking away the control is not something I'm really into. At the end of the day, I think your players are still going to end up progressing similar, but then again, it goes to the point of like, why am I jumping through these new hoops? But it's still a solid game, because you play it, and it's like there's some great Madden moments in there.
Yeah, for sure. Reiner, you know what game's coming out the same day as Spider-Man?
NBA 2K19.
Very good guess. Yeah. All right, Bert, you got to play this thing ahead of time?
Yes, I did.
All right, how is it this year?
It's looking good. They're cleaning up a lot of the stuff from last year that kind of irked me. Like there was a lot of way more clipping animations where like basketballs are morphing through people's bodies and heads and stuff, because they switched to a new player motion engine last year. So they just didn't have time to clean it up.
Right.
A lot of that stuff is being fixed.
Right? Hey, got us yucking it up over here.
Hey.
Yeah. So that's one of the big ones. I think there's a kind of a thing like grand badge system where for you, it maybe is more like an NBA Jam thing where, like as your player of a particular archetype does things that player's good at. So like a rim protector's blocking balls, sharpshooters hitting threes, you build up a hot meter that once you activate it, you have new moves and new badge abilities.
And this is in the core game? Is a separate mode?
Yep,
or what is
this? Is in the core game.
That seems pretty wild.
Yeah, your guy just like evolves. Like he's in a cocoon, and then boom.
Yeah, I don't think there's any
better.
like Incredible Hulk animations or anything, but you have a little on fire icon, and you can also get cold, and it's going to be interesting to see if people can string together combinatorial, on fire moments, takeover moments, as they're calling it.
Okay.
So you could have multiple players on the court, be on fire.
Did you get a sense that was, could you really feel it when you were hot or were you cold?
I only saw one or two guys on there, and like you can drain deeper threes with sharpshooters and stuff like that. It's going to change the way you can play with those characters a little bit, but it's not like you're all of a sudden like, like a genetically recreated Michael Jordan,
And that's a shame. That's a damn shame. Most importantly, story mode. Please tell me Spike Lee's coming back.
We don't know anything about the story mode
Really?
yet. Like that's the one thing. There was a gameplay focused event, and we have a new blog on the website today about the franchise mode changes. But that's the big question. Like, what are they doing with My Career? It's the most played mode. There was a lot of backlash from the fans last year about microtransactions. People want to know about the story.
Beards.
Yeah, so what happened last year, and what have they said about this year?
Last year, the fan feedback was like, so a lot of the things that were previously like free, like facial hair and stuff, they started to charge for it. They had to scale back how much they were charging for it.
This grows naturally.
Yeah, and a lot of players felt like it was too much of a grind to upgrade your guy. So they just felt at a disadvantage against the players that do spend money.
Yeah.
And the backlash, there was a million YouTube videos about it. Like, this is it. I'm never playing this again. But then, you look at the actual financials. It's the best-selling NBA 2K game of all time.
And that's just the base game, not counting microtransactions. Which I'm sure just made even a gazillion more dollars.
Exactly. So there is a disconnect there. Like, it didn't suffer like Battlefront 2 did when Battlefront 2 got nailed for its microtransaction scheme.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see, like, do they change anything? Is it going to be the same kind of plotting, like slowing down the progression system?
God. And
the fact they haven't said anything about it yet, and we're 30 days out?
Well, that's normal for them. They do really late press cycles. I think we only learned about the 2K My Career mode, in late August maybe last time. So
it's just weird considering like EA's big messaging ever since E3 was like, all right, scaling back on loot boxes, everything's cool, and you just haven't heard a peep about this one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe to Bert's point, there's so many modes in this game, and they flesh them all out every year. They give additions to them every year. So it could very well be, as much as, we're on the side of consumers, I understand people's anger. There could be a silent majority who just like, oh, I don't really like the progression in this mode. I'll go play my franchise or something like that.
There's a lot of people who, say like that all they do is try to eat more money out of you. But like, I'm a franchise mode guy. I play a ton of that in this game. It's not in that part of the game.
But overall, feeling pretty good about it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a solid year for NBA 2K. I mean, I do want a way better story, though. I'm sick of how awful the stories have been getting.
You don't like sitting next to your locker talking to a guy,
having
the same conversation over
I don't
and over?
want some random stranger eating my Reese's Pieces cereal in my crib, like the lady last year, Real B or whatever. Oh, she was awful.
Real B?
You go way
I gotta
back.
go back and play this. I want to play every sports game story mode. I think they're all fascinating.
What was it, 2 or 3 years ago, they had their best one where you could just be a complete asshole.
That was
through the whole thing.
2K14, maybe?
Oh, it's so
that
good.
was great.
Wait, what? You can be an asshole?
Oh,
in this thing?
and like teams will be like, "You're out of here." So I got traded like 7 teams.
Yeah, that was when it was at its best.
I was wearing
Again,
like a tiger skin
RPG
suit.
style.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah,
okay.
you could just act like a jackass in
Yeah.
the press conferences.
So good.
And it was less like cutscene heavy because did Spike Lee really ratchet that entire scene up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Before the big mocap performances.
Wait
with
to
him at
see
the end.
Colin Trevorrow's version.
Oh.
That's my prediction.
Wait, really?
Mr. Jurassic World. Yeah.
Is that coming out of the blue?
Oh yeah. There's
Okay,
no
all right,
intel.
good. All right, perfect.
That would be the worst possible thing.
That's true. Okay, a game that you guys have been playing a lot in the office. I can tell from Kim screaming all day over by her desk one day. NHL 19.
Yes.
How are you guys feeling about this?
I'm stoked. It's the first real significant gameplay change where I feel like it feels like a way better game. That
Really?
they revamped the skating so your guys don't feel like last year you would, like these are world-class athletes and turning them sometimes felt like you were turning the Titanic. They're just really slow and plodding. They've kind of gotten rid of that. There's more burst in the skating. They rewrote the physics for contact. So you see more glancing blows and like player collisions that look more realistic and take into account weight and speed.
Here's like, if I may, some context to kind of what he's saying about how different it feels, how good it feels, is that there's a bunch of stuff in that gameplay that longtime NHL players, wish were changed, like, board battles, stuff in front of the net. None of that stuff's been touched, or just maybe sort of lightly touched or, whatever. But my point being is that just the skating alone gives you a lot of other things you can do. So just that fundamental change right there makes it feel different, makes you, opens up some possibilities of what you can do on the ice. And that's not even touching the stuff that, you kind of wish to get to and maybe get to next year. So that's kind of the context of like, this feels different, this feels great.
Have they been messaging how different it's going to feel? Like I've noticed so many of the YouTube comments on the videos we posted so far are people just saying, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it's something going to feel and not necessarily see. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, if you did a side-by-side, you'll see it, but it's not immediately noticeable because they're just hockey players skating, you know?
Right.
The animations aren't going to be that dramatically different. But once you get your hands on the stick, it's night and day.
Okay.
The messaging for this game has been really weird because they came out of the gate with like this
EA?
world of Chell. I know, it's weird, right?
Huh.
They came out of the gate with this world of Chell thing that was like, you know, a pond hockey kind of. They're trying
Chell?
to capture more NHL nickname, you know.
NHL.
Don't
Oh,
feel
they call
bad.
it
A lot of
Chell.
hockey fans didn't even know what it meant.
What?
So-
Okay. All right. So World of Chell.
Yep. So this is like their hub for all their kind of online versus modes. But there's a new like element where they're trying to kind of embrace more of hockey lifestyle outside of the NHL. Like, so they've created like kind of a pond hockey atmosphere outside where you can buy all this weird, earn all these weird like hats and parkas and, you know, pants and all this stuff and like kind of personalize your character a little
To
more.
walk around a pond with?
No, you play on the pond against other players in this mode called Ones, where it's 1v1v1. So it's kind of a free for all on the
That
ice.
sounds really fun, actually.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm not going to spend much time, but if like a 9-year-old me would be super into that.
Okay.
I know that. You know, so like
If they want to recreate the life of NHL, they just go back to the hotel room and play Fortnite. Like, that's it. That's all it should be.
or go to the bar. We're talking about hockey players here, man.
Go to the dentist.
Yeah.
Replace teeth.
Yep.
Do you guys think this is going to happen? When I was playing Madden, I was thinking about like they emphasize like the touchdown celebrations more than maybe they did it last year as well.
They're interactive now.
Right.
Real
That's new.
animations or
That's
whatever.
new.
Okay. Do you think that eventually they're going to have to start patching in and adding Fortnite celebrations? Because you know throughout the NFL this season, it's going to be
Oh, yeah.
nutso.
I mean,
with
the
Fortnite
World Cup
celebrations.
soccer, they've talked about trying to get it
Exactly.
into FIFA.
But how weird is that going to be when it cycles back then through the Madden video game? It'll happen, right?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be weird.
There's a lot of NHL also has a ton of weird random celebrations you can do after you score. So I wouldn't be surprised if they work their way into that as well.
Oh, gosh. All right. So NHL, feeling good. Enough
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, they're doing some interesting stuff with franchise mode, which has needed a refresh for a long time. I don't have any intel on how that's going to shape up because it's pretty complex overhaul of their scouting system, the way you find new draft picks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dig into it, though, because it's been kind of stagnant for so long.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah,
So all
I'm
the
stoked.
sports are looking good then. It's just baseball this year was the odd man out. That was kind of a disaster, like wanting to take all your money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
losing the online franchise mode. Yeah, that was a rough
Yeah.
year for the show.
RBI pulled it off pretty well, though.
Yeah.
I think that they saw
It came
them.
out.
NBA Live.
NBA Live is doing something cool, you know, like there's a huge market of basketball players that haven't been serviced for a long time, and we're talking about the ladies. And they're adding female creative player now into the game to build on top of having the WNBA in the game last year. So like
Oh, that's
you can
right.
create your own character and compete on the Streets World Tour and all the online competitions. The one thing that they haven't added yet is the trajectory of taking your created player into the WNBA. They're going to aim to do that next year, but I mean, that's really cool that there's a lot of girls who probably have wanted this for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Reiner, I've been meaning to ask you, how do you feel about Star Trek's George Takei?
He's an OG, man. Like, he goes way back to, what do they call it? Just Gen 1? What is it?
The first generation, I believe is the official labeling of it.
Real Star Trek.
Of all the old schoolers,
Uh-huh.
he's definitely one of the most interesting and fun to follow on Twitter and whatnot.
Well, there we go. Well, what if he was on the Game Informer show? And here he is right now! George Takei, welcome to the Game Informer show, sir.
Thank you very much. Are you in LA?
No, we're out in Minnesota. Do you have any thoughts on Minnesota?
Minnesota. What's the weather like there? You got rain, I think.
It's a blizzard. We're locked in an igloo, and we desperately need your help, George Takei.
Oh, so the rain is frozen.
Yeah, it's just a mess. But George, I was curious. Since this is the Game Informer show, I want to talk to you about games. What's like your favorite game you've ever played in your life? I'm talking like Scrabble, hopscotch, anything. Number one game.
I am a traditionalist. The most interesting and challenging and frustrating game, I think, is chess. And I still play chess. I've got a chess set here in Los Angeles, as well as we've got our mountain hideaway in the White Mountains of Arizona, which incidentally is the biggest, largest ponderosa pine forest not only in the United States, but in the world. And I love playing chess with. My hubby Brad is not a very good chess player.
Well, that's why you like playing.
What?
That's why you like playing against Brad. You can just crush him game after game.
But my nephew and my niece are sharks at it. And so we have them over. Alas, this trip they're not coming over. But I have neighbors that like to play chess too. But chess is my favorite game.
What level are you at with chess? Because there's like the fun. You can have a good time with chess and mess around, but then you come against those people that know strategies. They're watching live streams these days. Are you nearing that point of obsession with chess?
I have come across people like that. No, I'm more the former. But a friend of mine, Penn, is one of these people who has studied the history and know the historic moves and all that. I'm not one of those. I just like the challenge of a smart adversary.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds perfect. Well, if you want smart adversaries, you should check out video games, George Takei. Have you ever played video games? I know you've been in a couple. You've been like Skylanders Giants.
There's a video chess game, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. They released a game not too long ago, George Takei, that's called Chess 2. So if you want to play the sequel to Chess, you can check that out. Or Battle Chess is a great one from back in the day.
You know, I'm what's called an old dog, a traditionalist. And I like, in fact, you know, I support brick and mortar. I don't. Why would people want to buy buy clothes and shoes over the internet? You've got to. I mean, I'm a tactile person. I've got to touch it. I've got to wear it. I've got to walk with it. You know, and so I am one of those people that buy books at our local bookstore on Larchmont Boulevard, our little retail village there. I love technology and I dive into it, but I also think we need to keep some of the things that make us human beings, you know, touching,
right,
building those chess figures.
Yeah, you want to move the chess figures, not just play around with Command and Conquer, a series you're in, where it's all digital chess, some would call Command and Conquer.
Exactly.
Okay, forget about that. I got it. So you're promoting something called Trace Me. Do you want to explain what this is?
Well, it's another level of opportunity to create a community. You know, what initially fascinated me about social media is that, you know, I began by writing back in the 1990s, in the 20th century. I had a blog essentially to stay in touch with my Star Trek fans. But when social media became big, you know, YouTube and Facebook and others, Twitter became available, I thought, what a fantastic way where I could keep in touch with fans in Prague, Czechoslovakia, or the Czech Republic, or Singapore, or Sao Paulo, Brazil. I mean, and so that's what attracted me to social media. But then we make discoveries of the underbelly of social media, the trolls, and that's caused all sorts of havoc. And here with Trace Me, my one of the agents in my agency, a guy named Ben Press, a real nice guy that I got to be friendly with, left the agency, and he joined with this organization called Trace Me, and he called and said, I'd like to sit down and talk with you about it. And so we invited him over, and he sat in the living room, and he told us about the new Trace Me that he's working on. He's an executive with. And the thing that made it attractive was that it was a troll-free opportunity, so that we can, you know, really genuinely create a positive, personalized exchange between the fans and me. And so that's what attracted us to trace me.
That has to be nice. Is it like behind a paywall? Is it just like being brutal with policing, where it's like, hey, you have one edgy comment, you're out of here, buddy? Or how do they keep it troll free?
Well, we have a moderator.
Okay.
And that controls the troll situation, so that you don't have to be on guard, wary of what kind of hater. I mean, you know how ugly trolls can be.
Oh man, yes.
And some of the I really feel badly for vulnerable teenagers that are profoundly affected by these haters, and they go to bed, terrified, and people who don't have the life experience built up are so wounded by it that they start doing horrible things,
Yeah.
And so to be rid of them and to be open and relaxed and fully forthright and candid, you develop a real community with the kind of global access that you have.
For sure. What does trolling George Takei look like? What if I pulled up your mentions on Twitter? What are people just constantly barraging you about that you just get sick of?
Well, there was one weekend when I made a mistake and said something that I regret now, but that grew and grew, and it was all weekend long. And fortunately, we were at our mountain hideaway, and so journalists could journalists like you couldn't interview us. We were in the Ponderosa Pine Forest, but I won't tell you what it was, because I just want to leave it in the past.
Right.
Was so horrific.
Do you ever? This Ponderosa Pine Forest sounds great. Could you possibly loan one out to anybody who just wants some solace and kind of retreat from the internet? Because it sounds ideal.
Well, actually, it's a gated golf development, and they do have some rentals there. Okay,
all right, I'm listening. I'm interested.
Do you know where Sholo is?
No.
Sholo, Arizona?
No.
Do you know where the White Mountains are?
I could find it. I'm very bad at geography, George Takei.
It's northeast of Phoenix.
Okay.
It's 6,500 feet up in the. A lot of people who live in Phoenix or Tucson or Scottsdale have their summer homes there because of the altitude. It's cooler. On the desert, it's blistering hot.
Do you find it
to the mountains?
Yeah. Do you find it important to kind of unplug from the internet every once in a while and just disconnect from fans, even just for your own sanity?
It is essential, because we do, thanks to technology, we do live in a more densely packed time. I have, like yesterday, I had a press conference with the California state legislators in Beverly Hills, and then I had a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, and then Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC, that was a bait and switch. He wanted me to talk about Jeff Sessions' new religious liberty task force,
right.
And so I had to cram to be up on that issue. But when I showed up at the station, they changed the subject matter on me. It was my childhood imprisonment in American barbed camps, simply because we looked like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor, and relating that to what's going on at the southern borders of this country, and the children being torn away from it. So but that I was very conversant in. So I was able to handle that. But it's because our days are so densely packed, it does become important to have a place where you can commune with nature. I love the sound of the breeze going through the pine needles. It's like a wave just coming in, without the ebbing. It's that constant. It's so relaxing, and I sit there and check my email on the phone.
No, you got to unplug, man. What's your ideal interaction with a fan? What do you want fans to ask you? I'm sure you've been asked 8,000 questions about Star Trek and everything. I mean, what is your ideal lane for fans to communicate through?
Well, 3-minute warning. Sorry.
Thank you. Star Trek basically had a vision of the human future. As you know, it took place in the year in the 23rd century, and the vision was the Starship Enterprise was a metaphor for Starship Earth, and the strength of the starship was the diversity of that starship coming together and working in concert, each contributing their unique talent to face the challenges that the Enterprise was confronted with. I mean, and it's, tapping our inventive genius, our problem-solving genius, our ability to work together as a team, and we will boldly go and overcome and live long and prosper,
Yeah. So you want fans to ask you about Star Trek?
What?
You want fans to ask you about Star Trek? You still enjoy getting those questions?
No.
Okay.
People who have that kind of vision and share that optimism and the positive feeling about our future. And it doesn't have to be about Star Trek. We in fact, Gene Roddenberry, who created the show, meant for it to be related to the issues of our time, and so to be inspired by that, but to relate that to the world that we live in. Right.
So that's the avenue you're looking for. I totally got it. By the way, I don't know how often
I'm both a political activist as well as a lover of nature, as well as curious about our future in space. In fact, as a matter of fact, Saturday we flew back from Washington, D.C., and unknown to us until we landed and we were getting up to leave the plane, sitting right behind us was Buzz Aldrin, with whom I'd crossed paths in the course of the various events that I go to. And, there's a man who walked on the moon who was riding in a plane right behind the seat right behind us.
What a world, man. Congratulations.
We live in that kind of world.
Yeah. I don't know how often people bring up the episode of Twilight Zone that you were in, but we're big fans here in the Game Informer office.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that.
Was that a positive experience overall?
Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
Was that a positive experience? I was a young actor, and that was a wonderful opportunity. I mean, because more often than not, when you're a young, fresh actor, you're getting roles that are pretty standard. But with that one, it was red, raw, bloody meat that I could sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
And so I really found it challenging and fulfilling.
And you had to jump through a window, if I remember correctly.
I did. Yes.
All right, what time is that?
Okay, well,
there was a nice mattress on the other side.
That's perfect. George Takei, if you're ever in Minnesota, swing by our office. I'd love to go against you in a game of chess, sir.
All right, we'll do that, but please do not have a blizzard going then.
Okay, I'll see what we can do. Take care, Mr. Takei.
Good chatting with you. Bye-bye.
George Takei, ladies and gentlemen.
That was wild.
The gaming expert himself.
Yeah.
He's here.
He knows it all.
Emails. Reiner, you're sticking around?
Yes.
You two are leaving?
I'm leaving.
Okay, we'll get new folks. All right, stay tuned for emails. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some wonderful emails that people send to the podcast at GameInformer.com. People of all shapes and sizes, stripes and colors.
We're not judging.
We're not judging. Podcast at GameInformer.com, where we'll judge your emails and determine which ones are worthy of being read on the air, and then figure out beyond that our favorite email of the week, and we'll put that person's hometown on the big board upstairs. God's country, that is. What do you want people to write in with, Reeves?
Anything that makes the show butter.
Anything that makes the show, I can't believe it's not butter.
That's right.
Send it to podcast@GameInformer.com. If you're like on the fence, but like, I've never really written in, I don't know what I'd say. Just the next interesting thought you have about video games, the video game industry.
Whatever you
just
talk
send
to
it
about,
off.
Yeah, with your friends.
Yes. If you have a good hypothetical question for your friends, especially if it's related to games, anything like that, good chats, podcast@GameInformer.com. Dares, scares, bears.
We've never had a scare.
That's true.
What could that be?
Yeah. Surprises.
Think about it.
Okay, podcast@GameInformer.com. Okay, first email. Dan Friend from Greenwood, Indiana, has something that seems up your guys' alley, especially you, Reeves. He says, hey, with its showing at E3 and new story trailer during Comic-Con, has Insomniac Spider-Man revealed too many of the characters that will be in the game? I'm still looking forward to the game, but feel like there are not going to be as many surprises while playing the story.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that now. I would say 3 months ago, no, because all we'd seen is Mr. Negative and Kingpin.
That's true. I guess, Shocker was starting to be teased out there or something, but then...
Yeah, he was out there.
But E3, they really ripped off those Band-Aids with that video showing so many of those villains. And I guess it was cool, but at some point it's like deteriorating returns, I guess, of if they just showed, hey, here's Rhino and tease a Mysterio in the background or something. Like, that's enough to get fans excited.
It felt like movies have started to figure this out where you really don't need a whole roster of villains in your movies, but like early 2000s, late 90s, it felt like they were trying to cram every villain into each movie.
It's just Spider-Man 3.
And that's how it feels with games still, is like every time a game comes out with about a superhero, they have to try to cram every single superhero villain that they know in there.
Right.
That's what they call them, right? Superhero villains?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you need their whole roster of characters. And I don't know. I would think it'd be interesting just to focus on one.
Right. Like, so in Arkham Origins, you would just want Black Mask to be the focus instead of like, I don't want this twist. And
I think it'd
Joker.
be interesting. Oh, yeah. Well, especially that because it was always the Joker was behind everything in that series. But,
right. Well, he's quite
Spoiler.
evil.
Oh, is he?
He's an evil gentleman.
I think with games, you have a little bit more room for that. Whereas like the Spider-Man 3 situation, it's like you had to cram 3 villains into like, 2.5 hours?
Right.
Whereas with this, like with Arkham, and it felt like you had a little bit more time, and all the heroes are sort of had their own dedicated section. Like, some villains were only in side quests, things like that. So they have a little bit more room. But I in terms of like reveals, I definitely get the sense that like I'm curious about how many surprises that game will have in store by the time it's out.
I'm sure there will be some.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think kind of to Reeves' point, to both of your points, the game starts off with the fall of Kingpin, transitions to Mr. Negative, but he's a part of the Sinister Six. Like, that's the big reveal, is like that is the big menace. That's the threat to the city.
It's the organization of the Sinister Six.
Yeah, it's that super team, right? So I don't think that's too many. It would have been nice to keep some of those surprises, but most of them, if you're a Spider-Man fan, is just like, well, duh.
Yeah,
of course he's there.
And I guess to be fair, they have said that like Harry Osborn, that he's not going to be there, that he's out of town at least in the beginning of the game. So that's something, that whole storyline really they've kept relatively under wraps.
Yeah,
outside of Green Goblin running for mayor or whatever the hell's going on.
Right. I mean, it's crossed out. It says Green Goblin, but then it's like Osborn.
Right. It's very clear. And have they said anything about Mysterio either way? Is he normally a part of the Sinister Six? I just want Mysterio in this thing.
Everybody's been in the Sinister Six at some point.
He has been.
I
would think with him, like he's
I don't want to say anything
focus
about
of the
the
new
game.
movie. You would think like Mysterio might be.
Yeah, but I bet. I mean, since that's a relatively recent thing, and I don't know how much.
This ahead of time,
I don't know how much Marvel would have given Insomniac info on like the movie slate. I doubt they would have told him years ago that Mysterio is going to be in the Homecoming sequel. Yeah, I doubt it, but. Good point, Dan Friend. Voy from Shakopee, Minnesota says, I know Dan Tack says he doesn't have a backlog, but does he have games that he's bought that he hasn't played? Those games are his backlog. That's correct. Great point. Barbara Joe, friend of the show, Game Club champion, writes in and says, hello, crew. I recently got a hold of some Super Nintendo games, and I was hoping you guys could pick which game I should play next.
I don't believe in picking which game you should play next. I'm sorry.
Here's what I got. It seems like it's fitting a theme here. Okay, Super Nintendo games. Which game out of all these would you say she has to play? Shadowrun?
Yes.
Soul Blazer?
Sure.
Wait, which
Reiner.
Shadowrun?
Super Nintendo Shadowrun.
Oh, the Super Nintendo one.
Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, Secret of Evermore, Breath of Fire 2, Lufia and the Fortress of Doom, Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. If you had to pick one of those, kind of like good B-tier Super Nintendo JRPGs, or not all JRPGs.
I don't think you could have constructed a list of games that I haven't played.
I've played all those.
Really?
Shadowrun is such a classic. I doubt it holds up well. I bet Breath of the Wild or Breath of Fire 2 holds up pretty well.
Is that the one with the character named Rand who can like roll around? Am I thinking of the Super Nintendo RPG?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Boy with amnesia, blue hair.
Of course.
Oh, that guy.
Ladies.
Yeah.
I got amnesia about all the plot lines for the Super Nintendo.
What you should do is just go
JRPGs.
play Earthbound.
No.
I just finished that one. It's good. Holds up.
Yeah. Okay.
It holds up.
Those battles are very dry.
You know what though? Like I was talking about this with Joe, and I was like, for a game released that long ago, like there's a surprising lack of like grinding. Like you don't have to go grind. It's
That's
like
nice.
everything you do, you go where you're going, and you level up enough to
About time.
beat where
I
you're
like going where I'm going.
Yeah.
My favorite of this batch is Lufia 2. I love Lufia 2.
Yeah, those are fun games.
And they just, well, not just, but they released a remake on 3DS or DS. I understand Barbara probably wants to play Super Nintendo, but you know,
What kind of
that's my
game is
favorite.
this?
It's a JRPG. Yeah, but it's cool because like, God, it had different abilities assigned to each piece of equipment. So as you rotate through, it'd be like, all right, well, I want to use this helmet, but if I use this helmet, then I'm going to have fire moves. So it's kind of fun that it would
That's
change
cool.
up the moves throughout the entire game like
Yeah.
that. Anyways, Barbara Joe is not done. Says, another question. What's
Aw.
one book you recommend everybody read? I always recommend people read The Cuckoo's Egg by Cliff Stoll. It's a true story about the early days of the internet and how he tracked down a spy. Interesting. Number one book people should read. And Reeves, you can't say the Bible.
I was gonna say, is it shameless to say that?
I don't know. Were you going to say it?
I was debating it.
What-
Just
what-
because it is like, even if you're not into it, like it's
Historically,
a
it's
huge
important.
historical thing, and it's
The most
interesting.
influential book on earth,
Yeah.
you should read it.
Honestly,
Up until like the Numbers segment, that's where it really gets dry.
it really
and
falls
rough.
off. But Genesis has had some good stuff.
There's no grinding.
Honestly, though, like I read it in college. I started from the beginning, and it was up until like the Numbers books they're called.
Okay.
Yeah, before like it was entertaining and interesting
and
up
this
until
guy
that
begat
point.
this guy, begat this guy.
Yeah,
and
begat me putting the book on the fucking shelf.
all right,
Hey.
all right.
Wow.
Okay, that's pretty good.
If you want another answer, Masters of Doom, great video game book. I think it's probably one of the best video game related books of all time.
Okay.
Honestly,
Yeah.
If you want to get into long form video game writing, I think Masters of Doom is like a must read.
Okay. You weren't going to say Masters of Doom before that, though, were you?
No.
Okay,
brought
what do
it
you
up. Some of my favorite books probably Drunkard's Walk. It's sort of just like a meditation on like how probability affects sort of our lives and how we tend to misinterpret probability.
Is
pretty
that a
much at every
Gladwell joint?
No. I think it's Leonard Blodden now. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but
it sounds like
okay.
a smart guy book, Surreal.
it's nonfiction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart guy stuff, man. Grow up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's a pretty good book to read if you've ever been like curious about sort of like probability or sort of like that three-door problem that they talk about like on like game shows about why you should always switch your guess when they tell you like, oh, what's behind door number whatever, and you should always like you have a higher chance of guessing correctly if you switch your door when you do that.
What?
It's a long.
It sounds ridiculous, but
You want everybody to read this thing?
Mathematically, you have a better chance of winning if you switch your guess after.
Yeah, after they open one of the doors.
Oh, but okay, after they open one of them and then it's
Yeah.
just a 50-50 shot, you should switch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Does it-
zero sense.
Well,
I'm not going to read this
They
scum
explain
book.
they explain it in the book.
Interesting. Okay. Reiner, what do you got?
Anything Michael Crichton.
Reiner,
Sphere, Mass Effect, Andromeda Strain, Congo. Like,
Yep.
there's movie
Donkey
adaptations
Kongo.
of a lot of these, but they're terrible. Like, seriously, like Sphere. Oh my God.
Yeah, Sphere's really
Could
good.
not put that
Congo's
down.
really good too. in the
Exactly.
movies.
Anything
Yeah.
Michael Crichton. Jurassic Park.
Did you read
Guy's
any of
a
the ones
monster of writing. He was.
that were released posthumously? Did you read any of those?
Oh, yeah, because there's like Dragon Island or some other
Dragon
kind
Teeth.
of... Is that what it is?
Yeah, I just read that like last year. It's actually pretty good. Like it's a little rough in spots.
Does it trail off at the end like that writing in the Holy Grail? Where it's like, "Wah."
And then
like, how does it work if it's posthumous?
I mean, another guy came in and I think helped edit it together.
That's why I don't
Okay.
read these, because it's
Yeah.
like he put it in his drawer for a reason and never gave it to his publisher. Like, I don't think it was ever meant for our eyes. He's just like, this wasn't good enough.
Well, Kafka
Not
asked
going there.
Kafka asked that all of his writing be burned after he died, and that was saved.
Right.
So he didn't want it released. So maybe, it's like
We should make
that,
the
you
exception
guys.
for all writers.
Yes.
We shouldn't honor any authors.
We should read everything they wrote, every note to loved
Yeah.
ones. Get that stuff out there. I was also going to say Jurassic Park. Like,
No, it's just, he's the best.
yeah,
It really is.
Yeah. And like my friend just read the book for the first time. He's like, hey, this book is surprisingly entertaining. It's like, yeah, of course. Why do you think I've been raving about it for 20 years? Anyways, Taylor from Greensboro, North Carolina, jumping back in time, says, hey, been in the crew with a surge of remastered JRPGs. I really want a remastered Radiata Stories. Ever since Joe reviewed it, it has been one of my favorite games of all time. I really wish it would get a remastered edition for PS4. If there's another underappreciated RPG you could have remastered, what would it be? Underappreciated JRPG.
JRPG? Or
Yeah.
RPGs in general?
He says
Panzer
JRPG.
Dragoon Saga count? It's Japanese RPG. It's not the traditional JRPG style, though.
I'll allow it.
I would, especially because
Squeak
that
it in.
game is often considered one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
That was on the Game Informer's top 300 list. I'll just say
Squeezed on there.
it made it. It
It's
was on
true.
there. But yeah, it's never been re-released
Yeah.
since it released back on the Saturn near the end of its cycle, and I don't think it got its due. It's
Yeah.
kind of sad.
I would go with Persona 3.
Ooh.
I think that still has the best story of any of the sort of modern Persona games, and having it remastered with like 5's combat and sort of like a different approach to dungeon design and sort of like the daily calendar pacing, I think would probably make it the best Persona game.
Wow. All right. Pretty solid. Reiner, what do you got?
Skies of Arcadia.
Great choice.
Seriously,
Great
Sky
choice.
Pirates.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that hasn't even been like updated or.
Well, they had the GameCube release.
Kind of. It was like basically the same game with a couple of little tweaks to make the game easier for players to get into. But
Yeah.
like picture that new gen graphics. Like
Honestly,
Whoa.
like Sega's releasing like Shenmue in HD. Maybe there's some incentive if that does well for for Sega to go back and like remaster, make HD versions.
Yeah.
Because you just put Skies of Arcadia on Steam. Cha-ching!
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It just
Fortnite
prints money.
number 2.
Yeah, Fortnite 2, they should just call it at that
Yeah.
point. It's going to make so much
Why
goddamn
not?
money. This is really tough. I have a couple. Am I allowed to say 3?
What?
We'll give you one.
We'll allow it.
1. Okay. No, I'm going with
Oh,
1. Let's
okay.
try and be strict here. Going Threads of Fate on the PlayStation 1, an action RPG where you're like choosing between 2 characters.
I know that game.
I think if you make that like a co-op reimagining, you could really do some wonders on that sucker.
Huh.
It had a really cool art style, and to see like that cool, it almost looked like Dark Cloud 1 or something, just kind of like bulbous, cool looking
Okay.
characters. Get that sucker rolling out
In
there.
the bulbs.
Or Legend of the Guy or Brave Prince of Musashi. Anyways,
Better writing than Life is Strange, says Ben Hansen.
for which one?
Any of them.
Legend of Legaya's writing is better than Life is Strange Season 1's writing. Absolutely. Luke Van Eed from Geraldton, Western Australia has an interesting thought. These are the emails I like here, even if you guys don't. He says, hey guys, I have a question about the possible future of the 3DS. With the fact that Nintendo wants to support the 3DS for at least another year and the incredible success of Splatoon, especially in Japan, is it likely or even possible we could see Splatoon on 3DS next year? Nintendo has already proven that new 3DS can run scaled-down Wii U and Switch games like Yoshi's Woolly World and the 2 Warrior games and Captain Toad. Plus, the 3DS can do gyro aiming and has a second screen for the map. To me, it seems like a perfect fit. I think this is more likely than anyone's ever thought of before. I think Luke is the
Really?
first person on planet Earth to think, yeah, that would sell like hotcakes.
Except for Nintendo, maybe.
But honestly, for how much they love Splatoon and like re-releasing stuff, wanting to support the 3DS towards the end of its life, I'm putting this as officially a 45% chance of it happening.
I think that's
don't
way
think
too
so.
high.
I wrote to President Trump asking him to tell retailers they can no longer sell 3DS.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It's made in Japan.
I have not heard back yet, but they just got to kill that machine. Switch is so much better.
Make sure to follow up with him.
Move on.
Yeah. Did he say anything about that time that he watched gameplay footage of Dan Reichert playing Fallout 4? Remember that when that happened, everybody?
Wait, Trump said that?
He's like, this
No.
is disgusting.
It was when they had like their video game violence summit after the school shootings, yada yada yada,
Okay.
where they had like a highlight reel that the White House prepared of like, look at all these violent clips from video games.
It's like 3 minutes of footage. Or
Right, and you can see it on the White House's YouTube channel. It's like officially this is the one they showed him, and they took clips from Dan Reichert playing Fallout 4 and like blowing people's heads off.
Oh, and weird. Why
Isn't it-
him?
Because I think he uploaded some video that was like violent deaths in Fallout 4, and they just searched around and found that. Can you imagine that? Is that insane?
That is weird.
The world's a weird place. Daniel from Toronto, Ontario says, hey, you pick up the controller during the day and you start playing the game. Next thing you know, you open your eyes wide and blink a few times and realize it's now 4 a.m. the next day. What was that game that made you play all through the night, and why did it grab you so deeply?
There's been a bunch of them in my career.
Yeah, I feel like
Res
there's a
Evil
bunch.
4,
Oh, interesting.
God of War. God of War just this year. I did not stop playing. I just wanted that thing to keep going. It's happened a lot in my life. Like if I get into a game, like narratively, like and it's all clicking, like I don't want to put it down.
It's interesting to go narrative compared to like most people would think like, Civ.
I was going to say Civ 4, I think happened to me, and XCOM as well. Like, it's just like, oh, one more match, or I'll do this one more thing. Or
right.
It happened a lot with The Sims. I was like, play for like an hour. Like, next thing you know, it's been 7.
And I think it was Sid Meier. I think we talked about it on the podcast before, but just the idea of why some games do that and others don't. And his assessment was like, well, some games have you thinking about and planning for the future more than others. And like, if you're in the future tense, your mindset while you're playing, like a Stardew Valley or a Civ,
Stardew's another
then
one.
You'll just never quite hit that horizon, and you'll just keep going until the sun comes up over the horizon.
And you're like, oh, I'm tired now.
Oh boy. Thanks for Stereo.
It happens very rarely with me, just because like I feel like if I'm playing for more than like an hour and a half, I feel like I have to get up and do something. But I think the last time I remember it happening was with Dota. And just playing like 12 matches of that game in a row, and they're each like an hour long.
Oh
so
my God.
And you're like, "Doe."
Yeah.
And
that's right. That's exactly what I said.
Is a good joke, ladies and gentlemen.
That's how you
joke.
There you go.
Good God.
Leo had to mute himself because he just died laughing.
Doug from Burlington, Vermont says, "Hey folks, I was listening to the prior podcast and had a strong deja vu moment where I felt like I already knew what everyone was going to say in the following 10 seconds, which we, as we know."
Oh, yeah. Hello. Welcome to Cosby's.
This happens occasionally for me, and I always am fascinated by it. Usually having noticed it, I'll end up not saying.
But Hanson, there's no bones in ice cream.
Okay, all right. Okay. Usually having noticed it, I end up not acting or saying what I thought would normally say, and I can't help but wonder, am I changing the timeline when I do this? Yes, you are. Do you find folks experience deja vu? Has it been tackled in games? What do you think it means?
Did you know Reeves was going to make that Dota joke?
That's right.
Right in.
Yeah. I've never had it while listening to a podcast. I have it probably once every 3 weeks, and it's just that fun feeling of like, how long can I keep this rolling? I can't quite predict the future, but I just want it to keep rolling and it'll eventually fade out.
Because you just want to feel that?
Yeah, I want to feel it.
Feel something?
Do you think anybody's ever had deja vu where it's lasted different spans of time and someone's had it last for like 20 hours straight? They had to go see their doctor daddy.
Oh my gosh.
Reeves, how did you know?
Reeves,
This is a bad podcast. Do you guys like deja vu?
I thought one of the coolest things was in The Matrix, not a video game, but like when they said, oh, that's deja vu, it's like a part of the simulation, like backfiring on itself.
And that became part of your religion, which I thought was interesting. Was the cat walking out and going,
and I always had to wear my sunglasses. But yeah, it was like such a cool explanation for something that like happens in real life. You're like, oh, we are in a simulation. But yeah, I can't think of a game that did that with deja
There's
vu.
a game called Deja Vu on NES.
Oh, yeah.
I remember playing it back in the day. I can't remember anything about it, though. I think it was like a point-and-clicky type of game or something.
I guess not getting to the end zone repeatedly in Madden 19's long shot, it felt like a big deja vu. I always think about that. I always think of like Groundhog Day. Like, why doesn't someone make a game based on Groundhog Day? And it's like, oh, that's right. Every video game is Groundhog Day. I always forget.
You would think Kojima would do something clever with that somehow.
Except he's a coward.
Yeah.
He's not cool.
You haven't had a good thought in your life.
That's right.
Hack.
Anyways, hey GI crew, this is Mexi from Orem, Utah. 4-letter words. I'm finally writing into the podcast after years listening to you guys. I'm 32 years old and have an 8-year-old son who is into gaming like Minecraft, Fortnite, several mobile games. I just can't get into the games he likes. My question to you guys is, am I getting too old for these games? I feel like I don't understand this new generation and their taste in games. I honestly think these new genres are dumb and pointless. Have you guys disliked a game that seemed like everyone else in the world was crazy about and thought to yourself, you actually enjoy this? Am I a grumpy old man now?
I feel like I've had that feeling several times, but I've never associated that with like, am I an old man? Like there are games that I like that other people do, but
because you're still young, Surreal.
That's true. But I feel like the one genre where I feel like I'm maybe aging out of it is just like anything that has survival elements. I just don't
really
like mesh with it all, and it feels like those games are always super popular on Steam, and like every time you hear about like here's this big game, it feels like it's this exploration and survival based game, and those games have never like those games have never stuck with me, and I wonder if it is sort of a thing of like these games are just made for an audience that I'm just not a part of.
Well, I mean, what about like light survival elements, like a Metal Gear Solid 3 or even like Prey? Are you into that?
I do like those games, but it like that isn't like I guess that isn't.
You're talking like Rust and stuff.
Of course,
like that.
right? Like stuff like that I've never.
But
Go drink water to survive.
Like even stuff like crafting elements are always sort of a bummer to me. Like even like in stuff like Destiny and stuff, just like trying to like find elements together.
Yeah, even like Last of Us, collecting stuff.
No, I dislike the Last.
Really
interesting.
Yeah.
You know, a game doesn't have any of that at all. No Man's Sky. I think you would love it.
Yeah, you should really check it out.
Okay.
Well, you have a leg up on everybody, Serial, because you're the most into MOBAs, and I feel like that is maybe in the last, 8 years or so, the last big wave, or the first of the big waves of, oh my gosh, I'm not connecting with this new genre. Am I too old for games now because I just can't get into MOBAs?
That's true. But I also feel like bringing that up, like, remind me that like the battle royale genre, I'm just like, I like the shooters as a thing, but like the idea of like, oh, we're adding a mode where we, that is structured in this way. I just like it doesn't appeal to me.
Really?
Like, yeah, I think it's fun, but it never feels like I always feel like I'd rather just play like a match based, like round based kind of like team based thing.
Yeah,
I think I don't think it's getting older or anything like that. I think it's just interest, and you have so much vested time in certain genres that's your go-to. Adding anything onto that seems like kind of a chore, or it might not be like the avenue of play you like. I think it's as simple as that, of just it doesn't fit something you like, right? Like for me, like story, like I said, I could get latched onto a game story and I'll lose hours to that. You guys, it's more like turn-based civilization building. That's different strokes for each people. Like,
but you're telling me that when you see your daughter playing Roblox, you aren't just horrified and say, "My God, what is this crap?"
Well, yeah, there's that, but at the same time, then I'm fascinated, right? Like, it's like, well, what are the kids latching onto here? And then it's like, oh, they're building these things. Like, I want her to experience that. That's a different age group altogether, but that's one example, I guess you could say, yeah, you can age out of. Whereas I think Minecraft is more universal.
Yeah. Is Roblox Blocks considered a good game, though?
No.
I don't know.
It just has so much variety and such a huge community around it. Like, they play like hide and seek and stuff like that. The platforming's really primitive. Everything about it's really primitive, but it is kind of a good teach your kids how to play games kind of tutorial title, if that makes sense.
It's different if it's like something that's considered to be a good game and you can't get into it. And that's fine. Everybody has their own tastes. Like I don't feel like I've ever had that like sense of like, oh, I'm an old man, except for like Let's Plays, which isn't quite what the question was asking, but like I remember when people first started like doing Let's Plays on the internet, I was like, this is dumb. Like, why are people just watching other people play games? And I felt that like,
this is before or after you've been recording replay for years?
I actually like this, and we do it ourselves. No, I mean, I get the... let me back up. It's a great industry, and I think... I honestly don't get why people want to watch other people play games. Like, I think it's fun to do it, to play the game while other people are watching you, I guess. I don't know if I'm a narcissist, but...
Yeah, you seem to be spinning out of control.
That was the only time where I felt like, oh, I'm an old man, I don't care.
Well, what about when we did the Man on the Street recently, which you can find on GameInformer.com or on YouTube, which is, what does the public know about Fortnite? We went around and asked dozens and dozens of people about Fortnite. Was that weird just because you're not really into Fortnite? And you just have to realize that, oh, everybody on this street knows about this game?
Well, I mean, I get why people are into Fortnite, though. Like, that's not... like I'm missing it. Like, it looks fun. It's just not my taste of a game, kind of a thing. But it was weird in the sense that most of the people we talked to were way young, who were really into Fortnite, and then everybody who we talked was our age or above was like, I'd heard it, but like I'm not into it.
The day I'll feel old, like where like I've out, like I'm too old for something, is when I can't compete anymore. You know what I mean? Like at a level in multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
Like that's where it's really going to sink in, I think. Like, this sucks. Like, because I love these games.
Yeah,
totally.
Already, like the younger kids, their neuroconductors are firing at a higher rate than us. But
they're all superhumans.
Yeah, but matchmaking's good. It does a good job of matching people. But there's going to come that point where you're just not going to be able to do it.
You'll have your old farts league. That's fine, Reiner.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I got to start that.
Weird to like go to like some old folks' home when I'm old and like people are just playing video games there.
They're doing the Fortnite dance with their walkers.
Exactly.
That's going to be strange.
So cute. Yeah, there'll be a Super Nintendo hooked up playing Super Metroid.
Well, what'll be weird is a PS4 hooked up there, people playing Call of Duty, and they're like 80.
Right. Split screen on some Hypno TV, whatever they call it in the future. I always am relieved when there's a game like PUBG and it's like, okay, thank God I actually love this game and then I was able to get into it. I hope the next big phenomenon I'll feel passionate about it as well. But like this really hits me with stuff like Gary's Mod. Like I forget which Game Informer intern it was years ago. But they're like, oh dude, you gotta play, if you like Avalon and stuff, you gotta play this like Terrorist Town and Gary's Mod. And it's like seeing the interface, like I think I'm too old for this. I just can't. This like raunchy PC scene, so just UI wise, raunchy, nasty. It's just there's something that's it's too raw. Leo, you know what I mean? You're a smart gentleman that probably likes Gary's Mod.
Yeah, it's hideously ugly.
Right, but it's I just don't know how to navigate.
Use one of those words.
Yeah, but kids can navigate that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we just have too high standards. I don't know. It's like when everybody's running in with their mics spamming, being super loud. It's very off-putting for sure, but it's totally worth it when you get into it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Leo's always right. Dang it.
Thank you.
Anyways, Mike from Walnut Creek, similar question. Hello, crew and Ben. I've been volunteering at an elementary school, and the kids there are all completely over the moon about Fortnite, and they're probably all better at it than me too, he says.
Neuroconductors.
At the risk of sounding like an old man... Oh, interesting.
Same question.
It feels very weird to me to see kids talk up a game that technically doesn't have real characters in it. Especially when my generation was huge into like Master Chief and the 3D platformer mascots like Ratchet and Jack. I guess my question is two parts. What games do you remember being really popular in school? And do you think that the characters from those games were a part of your enjoyment of them? Is that odd? Like how important are the characters?
Are there
to really
really no
latch
characters
onto?
in Fortnite?
Well, there's like skins and stuff, but there's like
But in terms of like
Save the
characters
World,
that-
there are.
there's like the classic robot from Save the World mode that no one can remember the name of and stuff like that. But in the actual Battle Royale, it's just skins. And that's all the personality you need. And imagine kids, I don't know what's going on in these schoolyards, just debauchery I hear. But I'd imagine they are still role-playing and running around pretending they're playing Fortnite, but not just saying, I'm Mike from Fortnite. You know?
Right.
Fortnite Mike.
Yeah. Look at me. But I think the characters were huge. Like Final Fantasy I was really into in like middle school, and my friends and I were so big on like choosing the characters that were us. Like, all right, I'm gonna be Eco from Final Fantasy 9. I'm role playing her in this dumb run around the schoolyard mentality. And I feel like the characters you want to latch yourself onto one of those.
Well, I'm just trying to think like if you go further back, like Mario, the original run of Mario games before he was more of a character. He was just like a set of pixels that looked like a dude in overalls.
Right. Well, he's Jumpman.
Exactly. And like, so was he more of a character then than like the Fortnite people? I don't know.
Yes, because he has a name. And he's like the single protagonist of Donkey Kong. Compared to it's a random skin. It's a random role depending on who you get here,
Okay. Sure.
We used to call people that like get knocked out of like dodgeball first or whatever, like Glass Joe.
Yeah,
so there was like there was like punch out characters that kind of resonated at the time. We were really into like in terms of like the schoolyard. If we were like role playing characters or universes, it was Transformers and GI Joe. So those weren't really game universes.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a couple characters that we would every once in a while reference for certain things.
Yeah, for sure.
Most of my role playing was Ninja Turtles, so I don't know. Which I guess were in video games. So
that's
there
true.
You go.
Technically crosses over.
Which one were you?
I was usually Michelangelo.
All right.
The cool one.
Did you actually have nunchucks?
I always wanted nunchucks, and then I like got a pair, and like I started using them, and like immediately hurt myself. I was like, it's hard to use.
What'd you do?
Well, I just like kept hitting my knuckles and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And,
well, that's not too bad.
While you're trying to spin them around, I think I hit myself in the head.
Where'd you get nunchucks?
I don't know. I was begging my parents for it. Like, hey, you should buy nunchucks. And then you go to like a flea market or something, and then you see a pair. You just see them randomly.
Next to the guns. Yeah, at the flea market.
There.
Right.
So
keep it rolling.
I got them. They were like just hard plastic. They weren't like wood or really fancy. They were just like a hard plastic.
Still enough to.
And it was still enough to hurt you.
Do serious damage to your brain.
That's right.
I got it.
My like it was weird because like in like kindergarten and like second grade, like Looney Tunes were surprisingly popular in our playground.
Space
like,
Jam.
Yeah, probably. Like that's probably a lot of it. And then later on, it became like Final Fantasy, Super Smash Brothers, stuff like that. So it's like it is this weird progression of like that's not cool anymore. We're moving on to something else,
right?
Which is weird. And then I think Digimon at some point.
Yep, for sure.
A couple others I'm probably forgetting.
I feel like Warner Brothers has really just been missing this target by not making a Smash Brothers clone starring Looney Tunes characters.
Oh, that's
Has there ever been a Looney Tunes fighting game?
I don't think so.
You know what? That's probably what they don't want to do. Is they don't want them to fight each other.
It's just bloody and stuff.
Well-
That's all they do is fight in those old cartoons. They just beat the crap out of each other.
Some really nice
Kill each other
animations
the whole time.
Yeah, just imagine a Super Flash, but it's like Porky Pig comes on the screen and he says, "That's all, folks," and it's just damage all day.
I'd be into it. Ryan Clausen from San Diego wrote in talking about how cool the Snake Eater remix is for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I didn't know they released this, but I guess like the person somebody that worked on the music for Metal Gear Solid 3 and Metal Gear Solid 4 has remixed Snake Eater for Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Huh.
And this is dorky, but you want to take a little listen to it? I think it is interesting.
It's a me.
Oh.
The smallest tease of all time.
2 seconds.
From the top, Leo!
Just want to say on the record, last time you had me play stuff, you had them start at specific times, and I f***ed it up, and now I unmessed it up, and it wasn't supposed to start at that time.
All right, you got it. From the top. Here we go.
Goldfinger.
Of course. But just like a more action Snake Eater theme.
This is total James Bond.
Oh yeah, it's Snake Eater, baby.
Yeah.
Have you seen that intro? That is the best fusion of Smash Brothers music and Snake Eater you could ever hope for.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I like it. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you, Ryan.
What was this about? Was there a question?
There's a question, but it's less interesting than that song. But thank you. All right, next question here. Sam C writes in from Bear Lake, Utah. Second Utah email. That's crazy. Question. This year marks the 30th anniversary for the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Snake Eater himself.
Yeah, that's right. Ben Metal Gear Reeves.
I don't like to talk about that.
They call him Snake Eater for a reason. So where is the re-release of the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection? If Panic Button can port Doom 2016 and Wolfenstein 2 to the Switch, then by God, Konami can get the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection on Steam and Switch. Just imagine playing Metal Gear Solid 4 on the go or having a better controller for Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah, I'd like to announce that I have it. I just forgot to upload it to video games.
Oh, Serial.
So by the time the podcast is
yeah,
live,
end of the day, I'll get it done. That's
okay,
yeah.
All right. That sounds good. It is weird that Konami's willing to make Metal Gear Survive, and for like what I would imagine is a fraction of that budget, they could just re-release that and make a ton of money. And just get those games on Steam in particular, bank. It's going to be Fortnite 3 for Christ's sake.
Especially since like there's a lot of negative will against that company, post Kojima. Like it's the easiest goodwill gesture they could make. It's like, hey, here's like a collection of all your favorite games that we're not tampering with these at all. They're like, decent ports. And so like you can play the games that you love that Kojima, pouringly like loved and made, and just have them on your PS4.
That's why they're not going to make them.
It's an FU.
I don't think they want to give him any more money.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to Kojima's pockets.
I bet some of it does.
No.
I bet he gets points. Yeah.
Do you think he gets?
I will guarantee that's not the case.
Do you think he gets money off of?
We will get the lawyers on the line.
Wait,
Mr. Kojima, please call in.
Lawyers on there
with 5? No.
Do you want to call a lawyer right now?
No. Survive. Do you think he gets any residuals for the Metal Gear name?
Absolutely not.
No,
I think
but the games he directed and made, I bet he gets points on those.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had worked some kind of crazy deal like that. But I think also, even if he doesn't, like, I don't think Konami wants to associate with those games anymore because Kojima was
instead they're just releasing Metal Gear Survive,
and they're still gonna like make the pachinko. Like they're putting Solid Snake and Bomberman for Christ's sake. Like,
yeah, but that doesn't have his name on it at all.
Well, they like the characters.
That's their property.
Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting. Yeah,
Kojima, leave a comment on YouTube, please. If you're out there,
he watches all kinds of YouTube stuff. He's got no time.
You're alive.
It is weird that Metal Gear Solid 4 has never been anywhere else other than the PS3.
Yeah, there was talk of coming to the Xbox at one point.
There's always those rumors. Yeah. It's confusing, and like I know from the cover story trip for Phantom Pain, we were out there. We talked a little bit about it, and I remember the producer Ken said that like they had to pull some real Sony magic to get the Shadow Moses level rolling on the PS3, especially like that PS1 emulation. Remember that section?
Yeah.
And so maybe that is just not technically possible, although the Switch could probably emulate a PS1.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just emulate it at this point.
Right. But I remember them saying that there's 1,000 times more complicated than you would think to make that sequence, like the PlayStation 1 flashback sequence, happen. So it's weird.
All right.
So I'm going to say within the next 5 years, you're going to see it. Guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen.
ever going to happen.
Oh, also, talking about like past shows and things we're picking up on. Somebody wrote in last week asking about like audio files attached to old episodes of the GI show. That's on there now. It was up by the time the podcast was out. So if you want to go listen to old GI shows, it's still there for you. All right, next question. Connor from Virginia here. He says, love the show and the people on it. Connor loves you, Serial.
He didn't listen today.
Yeah, he hasn't listened to this podcast yet. I played Jak 1 for the first time recently. I love its colorful setting, fun movement, and rewarding exploration. Jak 1 still feels awesome in 2018. I beat Jak 2 afterwards, and it aged remarkably worse. The story and darker tone are fine, but the gameplay feels dated. The driving, mission structure, combat scenarios, open world, shooting all feels lousy by today's standards. Top it off with difficulty spikes that come and go seemingly at random. Jak 1 holds up as a fun, responsive 3D platformer and collectathon that is better than genre entries today. Jak 2 feels unsatisfying, tedious, and doesn't compete with any modern third-person open-world action games. Which video game sequels do you guys think have aged worse than earlier entries in the series? It's interesting.
Well, Devil May Cry 2 for sure. That's kind of the historically worst.
Yeah. I like the tone, the idea of like Jak 2's tone, thinking it was cool and GTA-ified, and now in retrospect it's just terrible. Like obviously there's like Prince of Persia. What was the
I feel
Gobsmack one?
There's maybe like a difference between like those games are worse than their predecessors when they came out versus like games that like were thought to be better or like as good and then eventually aged.
Yeah, I think that's the more interesting category, right?
Well, you're thinking of Prince of Persia Warrior Within.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yep.
Which I don't know if people consider that one better. Even
at the time. You're totally right.
The first example actually that comes to mind is Metal Gear Solid 4. Of like, I think that would be the one. If I were to revisit any Metal Gear game, that would be the one I would least likely revisit. Just because
100%.
Gameplay is like. It's third-person shooter, so it's a little more accessible, but it's like the one where it just feels like a series of set pieces where you don't really like get to explore much. Yeah. So if I would rather play pretty much any other Metal Gear game than 4.
Yeah, Just Dance 2013. I don't think it's aged well.
It's not a good entry.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Arrows didn't look as good.
I just could not dance.
Reiner, did you know? Someone wrote in the podcast about it a while back. Do you know that Just Dance 2018 is releasing for the Nintendo Wii this year?
Wow.
Wii!
Man, they could just put that on anything they want.
Is it coming out on the Wii U?
As well.
It'd be funny if they were skipping the Wii U, I think. Like, yep, we don't even.
Is it out on Switch? Is it coming out on like 3 generations of Nintendo consoles?
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, Nicholas Brewer writes in from Searcy, Arizona, says, hello, Ben and crew. Arizona, two pins on the map for Arizona so far. Isn't that wild?
Gosh.
Truly God's country.
Since the map's so small, it looks like you're up in Utah.
That's true. Well, we have actually the bigger map down there as well. Actually, now that I think about it, George Takei wouldn't shut up about Arizona either. Mm-hmm. It's really the official sponsor for this week's episode of the Game Informer Show. Anyways, Nicholas writes in and says, hello, Ben and crew. Oh, all right. Things are going to get somber here, just so you know.
Okay.
Just a week ago today, my best friend passed away from a tragic incident. It was a soul-crushing event, to be sure, but I knew that she was a part of a forum for Battleborn, a game that was not incredibly popular. Huh. I reached out to the community and informed them of what had happened, and the outpouring of support from the small group that has been there has been tremendous, with many of them donating to help her family, and a massive group of them working with me and making a memorial piece of fan art together for her favorite game in her honor. I just can't help but feel that this kind of closeness in a community is lost when a game does exceptionally well, which makes sense considering their sizes. Honestly, I don't have a question for the email. I don't really care if it's read on air. I just want to let you know that something great came from Battleborn, a game that is otherwise fairly shunned in the wider gaming community. And it made her and her family happy in the hard times.
That's an interesting point, obviously. Terrible story to hear. But yeah, there is something to games not doing as well as they're intended to, or having kind of that cult following, right? Like you do get those kind of groups of people that are like really tight knit. They communicate all the time. They play together. I'm actually seeing that with something quite different with Spider-Man. There's something called the Spidey Squad, which is this rabid group of Spider-Man fans, but it is smaller, but for this one of the biggest properties of all time. But it is kind of a limited club. So if you become a fan of something, I would just say go out there and see what's out there. Test the waters and communities. You might find something cool like she did.
Yeah, I love finding those little pockets and just figuring out how small they can possibly go. Like, is there a Kururin, my favorite GBA game? I bet there's some forum out there that's still alive.
This happens a lot with fighting games of just like people like who like sort of lower tier characters and that aren't played as often, they'll often like band together. Like when Smash Brothers Brawl came out, I was part of like a subgroup that played Toon Link, and we were all just kind of helping each other learn how to play him. And like, oh, here's this like interesting combo you can do. Like if you're on this side, like basically help building each other up. And I'm sure that happens now with Discords, of course, of like, hey, you go into this Discord to learn the specific character, but you find that a lot. Like the underused characters sort of have groups with more camaraderie to them versus like here's like the most popular best character. It's like more people play that character, but there's less expectation of like we're all in it together because like there's this struggle of like playing the low tier characters.
Yeah, I think there's elements of that even within popular games too. Camden, one of our interns, is working on a story about fashion in game, like people who obsess over fashion and the way their character looks in video games. So like there's this subreddit, I think, for Destiny, of people who dress up their characters, their guardians, in different like costumes, and they like post pictures of like, hey, look at how cool my dude looks, and they like talk about the fashion.
Only in it for the fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Destiny's like a big game, but they found this like really small insular group, and they just like are really into this one aspect of this game.
Do you think that they have like a runway, like a catwalk, like on the farm in Destiny 2, where people like walk up and down or something? Yeah,
that would be good.
Yeah, and then they should get Paul McCartney to cover that catwalk song that everybody loves.
Best
I'm
song
so
of the game.
sexy.
Is that?
I'm too sexy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is what the song is. I thought it was just called the catwalk.
The one song that references a catwalk that you might know.
Top 3 catwalk songs. Oh, relevant. Here we go for Sam from Modesto, California, saying, "Hello, crew. I want you all to weigh in on one simple question. Don't give me a handful of old JRPGs like some cheaters did earlier in this podcast. Only one. What is the best TV show theme song of all time? P.S. I would also like to further my own agenda and remind you of the Laverne and Shirley theme song."
We're going to do it our way.
I don't know if that one's
our way.
Right. Well, what makes a good TV show theme? Does it have to be catchy?
No, I think Farscape has one of the best ones just because it's a mess.
It just sounds alien. Is Farscape your answer?
Yes. I'll go with that one because it's so different.
Okay, so not necessarily catchy. That's interesting. Leo, do you want to find the Farscape intro? I was thinking about that because I was thinking about like Mad Men, an intro that I love. I never get sick of. It's not really catchy. It's just that.
I love it. Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it looks cool,
and I'm always happy to see it. But
I like cool looking intros. Yeah.
Yeah, cool looking, but theme in particular.
Well, I was gonna say Star Trek: The Next Generation theme was really good and very iconic.
Okay, Leo, you got something there? Is this Farscape?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear Farscapes. Sit back and enjoy.
My name is John Crichton, an astronaut, a radiation winghead, and I got shot through a wormhole. Now I'm lost in some distant part of the universe on a ship, a living ship full of strange alien life forms. Help me. Listen,
just wait
please.
For it.
Is there anybody out there who can hear me? I'm being hunted by an insane military commander in everything I can. I'm just looking for a way home.
Wait. Crazy, right?
Is this music?
I told you, it's just a mess of sound. It's great.
Jesus, that is a good choice right here.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on there.
All right, Star Trek Next Generation, is that your number one answer, Reeves?
Now I'm going to say Farscape.
Oh, really? Changing it. I got to fly. Wow, that's good.
By the way, just one of the best sci-fi shows ever made. Like, it takes a couple episodes to get into, but you should watch that.
Can you stream it anywhere easily?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's so good. And it's Jim Henson Company helped out on it.
Oh, really?
So good.
Serial, what do you got? Number one.
Probably True Detective Season 1 intro.
Oh, how does that one go again? What song is that?
I don't remember what it's called, but I'm sure if Leo Googles True Detective Season 1 intro, he'll find the song. But a lot of it is also tied to the visuals behind that song. But like that is like the one TV theme that I have like on my phone of just like I will listen to that song independent of anything.
Sit back here. That's right.
You guys are feeling it.
Your hands are like ice. Why are your hands so cold?
I have 4 hearts.
Yeah.
Great choice, sir. Great
good.
choice. I was thinking of going with the longest running TV show in television history, which has one of the best themes of all time, written by John Williams, Meet the Press. But that's just like as John Williams can get, but still underrated in terms of TV show themes. Going with an old PBS program.
Wait, I think you only get to list one.
Yeah, isn't the entire premise?
I'm saying what I didn't choose. You're right.
I didn't choose totally.
You do the shout outs at the beginning of your acceptance speech.
Going with 3, 2, 1 Contact.
Oh, that's a good one.
You want to crank that crap, Leo? Really blast it. Sounds great.
I still think this is on the Persona 5 themes contract.
Hang on, let's just really soak in the lyrics here because it goes places.
3, 2, 1. Contact is the secret, is the moment when everything happens. Contact is the answer, is the reason that everything happens. Contact. Let's make contact.
Boing.
Boy, that bass is just hitting those low notes.
John Williams at his finest.
He's the one who taught us that
That's right,
contact is the reason that everything happens, which I guess is true.
It's so good.
Yep. All right. Doug from Burlington, Vermont writes in and says, "Hey, folks, I was listening to the prior podcast and had a strong deja vu moment where I felt like I already knew what everyone was going to say in the following 10 seconds, which, as we know, it was...
Doctor, hello, welcome to Cosby's.
And then he said, Dota.
This happens occasionally for me, and I'm always fascinated by it. Usually, having noticed it, I'll end up not acting or saying what I thought I would normally say, and I can't help but wonder, am I changing the timeline when I do this? Do you find folks experience deja vu? Has it been tackled in games? What do you think it means?
Man, I haven't experienced deja vu in forever.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
There's a NES game that has... It's called Deja Vu.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But I remember what it's like, though.
Huh.
I think there's a brand of water called Deja Blue.
That's probably what he's thinking of.
Yeah.
Diz from Sydney, Australia, writes in and says, "Hello, GI crew. It seems that the older you get, the more responsibilities you gain, which eats away at your free time."
I can confirm that rumor. It doesn't seem that way. That's the case.
Is that the case? Yeah, the math checks out.
Yeah.
If you could get some special neurosurgery that disabled your ability to sleep, and all you had to do was take a once-a-day pill to feel well rested, would you do it?
Yes.
Would everybody do it?
I think if there were no consequences, because I think like there are also mental repercussions to not sleeping.
But
they're all
like
chemical,
being
right?
tired.
Scientifically,
pill takes care of it all.
Right.
If it's totally fine and there are no long-term side effects, then
you just gain more time.
I would totally do it.
Carl Sagan comes down from the heavens and says this is 100%
That
safe.
means you never dream again.
Right.
You never.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Plus, as Dizza points out, one downside for me was that I'd be afraid I'd be bored during the 8 hours of night, that I'd see some terrible weight gain from snacking constantly.
There is that.
That's a good point.
You could go for a run.
But maybe there's
For
pills.
8 hours?
There's a pill. Take care of that.
Oh, really? Okay.
There was a comic about this a while ago that I can't remember the name of. True story.
Really?
Have you guys looked into polyphasic sleeping? Have you guys looked into that? It's
No.
like where you take multiple sleeps, but they're way shorter. So
It's
you
like
sleep
20
for
minutes.
like
20
3
minutes
hours
per.
here.
Oh, is that what JV was doing during that Spider-Man section?
Yeah, that's why JV always looks
Oh.
like crap. So-
Jesus.
You always just caught him after a nap. Yeah.
I like this idea a lot, just thinking of that's so much time to devote to games or loved ones, whatever the
Anything.
hell you
Like
want.
exercising. Like most people just like, I don't have time to go to the gym. But
Aren't
now
you-
you do.
Aren't you scared there's some larger reason why we need sleep? Even if science can't prove what it is, you still feel like this is surgery in your brain. This is permanent. I don't think I do
permanent?
When I was reading the
Think
Bible,
so.
it said that like if you don't sleep, you go to hell. That's
Is that true?
Yeah,
the home for
that's-
infinite losers itself?
that's right.
Oh my
HFIL.
God.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
What if you started to see through realities though, and you started to see things that weren't there?
You saw the simulation.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good.
On a more practical front, would you get rid of your bed? And if so, would it be weird if like, okay, here's a tour of my apartment. There's no bed in here. Like, what do you?
This is
Well, you keep it because you would still have the option to sleep.
also.
Right.
I don't want to spoil this podcast, but if you guys heard of a little thing called hanky and or pinky,
I'm just saying.
I think you might want a bed.
That's true.
You don't need it.
What do napkins have to do with that?
But yeah, that would be weird if just you're inviting somebody over to your place and there's zero bed.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I don't think I'd notice if somebody was having like a house party and I was just over there and they even brought me on a tour of their place and there's no bed.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd put it together.
It's like when you explore video game environments and you realize there's almost always like never a bathroom.
Yeah. Oh, it was Resident Evil 2, right?
Yeah,
Where
Resident Evil 2.
They went
didn't
back
have
and
bathrooms.
added bathrooms.
And they went in
the
the new one. They're adding bathrooms because like people
New and improved bathroom.
Yeah, huge
what
ones.
bothers me is like when people in games are on their bed, they never use the covers.
Yeah.
Because fabric's so tough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Paper is another thing
Yeah.
that it always looks like just total cardboard.
It's just
Right.
cardboard.
Yeah. Also, games can never have a good shot of a character drinking from a glass.
Yeah.
If it's like a see-through glass, that's always funny. Even like the elusive man, like his bourbon or whatever's in that glass in Mass Effect, it's like all over the place. Looks like crap. I feel like this question is related to like, if you could pay $500 for it, would you be immortal?
$500?
500.
Yeah.
Oh, it turns out there's just a thing we can flip on.
But
I
don't you feel
won't
like,
pay anything over $4.90.
but don't you feel like there's a part of you where it's like, well, yeah, of course. But then you start thinking about like, maybe there's a reason we should die here.
Is it like technically immortal? Like nothing can kill you, but
let's go with that.
You won't die naturally.
You're invincible.
So you could just dedicate your entire
I
life
would
to
pay
finding ways
anything,
to kill
and you
yourself.
guys would be in so much trouble.
Why?
I would just go on a rampage.
You just rip our
Yeah.
heads off?
No, I would just be a complete idiot and
Well,
just be doing the dumbest stuff.
Could you still die of like cancer or something, or like are there things that
No.
can kill you? Nothing.
Nothing.
So if you got cancer, it would just continue to grow and grow.
Okay,
You
wait,
would laugh
wait.
at it.
What if the Earth exploded? Would you just be floating alive in space?
You would.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You got to factor all that in.
You'd
So
regenerate.
end of days is going to come at some point.
Yeah. Maybe you could reverse the surgery for another $500 though. I haven't really factored it all in.
Do that after the Earth blows up. It's like,
Right.
actually, I'd like to go back.
That
if
would be the
possible.
thing if like somebody like cut off your legs and blinded you. Like then it would kind of suck to live the rest of
But he
eternity.
said you're invincible,
Right.
so like you wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to cut off.
so
your
like
legs.
You would survive like everything.
Yeah, okay.
Unscathed.
including nuclear holocaust.
That's true.
You could just walk right through it.
It's true.
You could. I mean, even short term, I feel like you just slowly go insane, and just like at some point you just get bored of everything in the world there is to do, and just start finding ways to like jump off a plane and.
It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
You bring
basically.
the toaster in the tub. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
100%. What do you guys like? Question of the week.
I have two.
Yes.
I liked Getting Old, that one, and then Battleborn.
I think the Battleborn one was more interesting than I thought based on the discussion. I thought it was an interesting story, but I didn't expect to branch out. I like that one. I like the remastering JRPGs.
Yeah, I like the Deja Vu one, and then also I like the Deja Vu one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
They were both good. That last one I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, the hypothetical.
Yeah.
I'm leaning Battleborn.
But the Battleborn one,
For the first
honestly.
time in my life, I'm leaning Battleborn.
Constant refrain from this podcast.
Let's do it.
Yeah, all right. Congratulations. That's Nicholas Brewer from, oh boy, Searcy, Arizona. Arizona three-time
You're going to
champ.
take up most of California now.
Yeah. Congratulations, Arizona. You're
Are
really
they
doing
gaining in power every time they win?
That's right. Their
Yeah.
state becomes more powerful, whatever that means.
They
for a
won't be
state.
stopped. Searcy, Arizona. Let's learn a lot
Their
about
land
it.
becomes more fertile.
Okay, folks. Are you ready to learn about Overcooked?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I
All right.
cannot wait.
Perfect. We have a developer or an interview with the developers coming up right now. Bill and Ollie, welcome to the Game Informer Show, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You're moving the camera around for the Skype call earlier, and I feel like I got a full tour of. Is this your office here?
Yes, we are in the attic room of my house. It's not quite as posh as an office, but it's got chairs, it's got desks.
What the hell else do you need?
Plaques up and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so this is where Overcooked was made. Was in the attic of your house.
No. So this is a step up from our last place, which was literally in the front room of my last house. Yeah. I was writing about it the other day, and there's actually still a dent in the sofa from where Ollie was sat making the first game.
So yeah, when we made the first game, Phil was renting. We were in Cambridge. We're now up in Manchester, and we didn't have desks or anything. Well, you had a desk.
I had a desk under the stairs. It was very Harry Potter.
And I had just a laptop on my lap for the whole development, which is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'd imagine. And what is the team like? Is it just you two? Are there other people around here?
Three of us. So it's us two and Gemma, who does writing and finance stuff. It's actually over there right now.
Okay, we can hear her laugh echoing through the halls. It's perfect. Where did all you guys come from? How did you meet? How did this whole thing start?
So we met when we were working together at Frontier Developments. That's where we used to work. We worked there for about, how long were you there then?
6 years.
6, I think. I was a little longer. I was maybe 7 or 8.
And what, hang on, stop. What era of Frontier is this then?
So I started on Connectimals, and I worked on a lot of Connect games.
I started on Lost Winds too.
Yeah.
I was just before that. Yeah, we both did Connectimals, and I did all sorts. I mean, it's kind of a weird company to work for at that time because they were just doing so many different types of games. So we've all worked on mobile games and tablet games and consoles and Wii and Connect.
So you guys got to be there during Peak, Skittles, the cat, the tiger, during all that stuff on the stage.
Yeah. I wrote a lot of the tricks that you teach to Skittles in Connectimals. It's all the things where the bag gesture and all the getting to stand up and stuff. That was all me.
Exciting stuff. You guys still talk to the folks at Frontier? It must be exciting for them to be working on Jurassic World.
Yeah, we actually ran into them at E3 this year when they were doing their big Jurassic Park release.
Yeah, they've come up in the world.
They've got a lot more of a budget these days.
Yeah, but imagine they're all secretly jealous of you guys for they get to go off and do their own thing, create this critically acclaimed little darling game like Overcooked. I'm sure that the jealousy goes both ways.
I'd like to be able to focus on a task sometimes. You can do it a lot in a studio.
Yeah. Spend a whole day doing just one job.
Yeah, you could work on cameras for a month. That's nice.
Okay, so you guys are at Frontier and you guys met and madly fell in love with the working relationship here. And then where does it go from there?
So we did loads of different prototypes when we were at Frontier in our spare time, basically because we all used to meet up together and play games like any local multiplayer games we could get our hands on. I think that's kind of where it started, right?
Yeah, everything we prototyped was always local multiplayer. That was something we always wanted to do, just because those are the games we were playing at lunch. And then we came up with the idea of Overcooked while we were there, and we were sort of messing around with prototypes, and eventually got the opportunity to go indie for a while. And we had about a year, I think, of time to do that, and we managed to get it just about done in the time for the first game, and sort of went from there.
That's fantastic. Do you guys? All right, I'm trying to think of the first time I heard about Overcooked. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but am I nuts? I remember seeing somebody from the No Man's Sky team saying they were related to somebody in the Overcooked team. Is that right?
Yeah, so my brother is the art director at Hello Games.
Really?
So they were actually the people that we took the game to originally and played it.
Yes.
They gave us advice.
Really? What advice did Hello Games have? What advice did Hello Games have for Overcooked?
I think actually the big bit of advice we got is when you're working on a game, try not to just focus in on the fun development side of things, but also think about the marketing and the social media and all this side of things as well. Because that was something that we were very tempted to do. It's just okay, well, we'll make the game we want to make, and then afterwards we'll see if anyone cares.
Yeah, it was the advice of treating the marketing as part of the development, because it's in some ways it's like the tutorial, because it's the first thing that players see. So you sort of think of it all in a games design way, and that was a really interesting idea that they had. And we tried to do that, sort of treat the community management as part of the game.
It's a fascinating lesson to learn from Hello Games, but I imagine this is kind of in the wake of their most trying times after the initial game's launch. So that was forefront in their heads. It's don't blow this thing, don't make the mistakes we did.
Yeah, we've been able to learn from not from their mistakes, but we've certainly been able to get a lot of advice from them, and they have years of experience both as an indie studio and then as AAA.
Because working in a studio as we did before, you kind of completely separated from the community.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have any knowledge or handle on how to we could make a game ourselves, but how to actually release it and how to go through that process of releasing a trailer. Yeah, and managing sending it out to YouTubers.
Yeah, because back when we were working with Frontier, that's all handled by a completely different department, and they don't talk to us at all.
You don't even think about it.
You just occasionally get an email from someone saying, "We need a trailer in 2 weeks," and then suddenly everyone has to drop everything and go make one of those. Whereas
right.
It's we got no one to email. We have to do all that ourselves.
Yeah, one of the big things with Overcooked was we massively underestimated how much work that was. So it ended up being because we thought, we'll just do that as a thing on the side. That's what we ended up with. So it was originally just the two of us, and then Gemma ended up coming on to do a lot of our community management stuff because we just couldn't keep on top of that.
It seems I'd imagine so many indie devs have a tough time being all right, look, It's an 8-bit Metroidvania, but here's why it's different. Whereas I feel like some aspect of the marketing and the messaging for Overcooked has to be a little bit easier because it's like, just get in front of some streamers, get in front of some YouTubers. It's very tough not to have a good time while playing Overcooked with a group of friends. And so that part seems easier on your half, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that I don't even think we were prepared for that, though, especially. I mean, just after the release, just seeing people play it and having a good time. I mean, that was, I think that the launch week, that's all I did was just sit and watch streamers play it and, with a notepad and pen, just being like, are they finding bugs? Because I still couldn't let go of the dev side of things.
The answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really difficult for Overcooked was because the game was quite different to other cooking games and other local multiplayer games, was trying to find a way of explaining what it was to people. Like, we spent a lot of time on the development of the game trying to get that sort of intro section to both not be really complicated for players coming into the game new, but also to not feel like it was just going to be a very simple simulation of cooking.
That's it. We had a lot of people that would just take a glance at the game and be like, oh, it's a cooking game, I don't play cooking games. We were like, no, it's so much more. It's not just about cooking, this is a game about chips. Yeah, so we really tried to up the ante when it came to just going above and beyond.
It's just a game about screaming at your friends. I mean, that's just the message you have to get across. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people didn't even realize the game was cooperative. We take it to conventions because we did a lot of convention playthroughs and stuff where we were developing it to try and get sort of like a sense of what would work and what wouldn't. A lot of people would like play a couple, like halfway through the level and be like, oh, we're not fighting.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. Like, oh, we're supposed to be working together. It's like, yeah, why? I said local co-op.
Damn it, games. You've trained us incorrectly for years and years.
Yeah. We were so used to fighting in games and so unused to working together.
Yeah. What was the most shocking reaction when that first game launched? Did you get any reaction from other devs, or like what was the most impactful reaction you received?
I loved hearing other studios that we respected, like that they played it at their lunchtimes. Because actually we built it for ourselves to play at lunchtime as a start. And so we heard about the fact that lots of people we knew, I can't remember what studios, I'm not going to give specific names because I'm going to get them wrong. But they were like,
I sent an angry email afterwards. I never played your game.
Like, I'm playing it. It's like, Did they? I think they did. It was really cool because that was in some ways where we started with it being our audience. And then there were the couples playing the game together, and people playing with their kids. Kind of cool.
When Penny Arcade wrote a comic, that was a big deal for me. I ended up being like, wow, not only have they heard about it, but like they thought about it enough to draw a comic for us. It's amazing. It's actually down here. Yeah, so that's probably now I'm thinking of it.
And Tim Schafer played it for the first time. That was cool.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That was really scary. So Tim Schafer actually played it like when we were partway into the development of the game. We sent them a build like months ago, and they sent us a message like hours before they were about to play it. And of course, for us, it's like 9 p.m. we get this message that they're going to play a really shaky build that we sent to them on a live stream. So we're there like 10 o'clock at night, bags under our eyes, just staring at this screen and watching things
really broken.
Oh, so broken.
Awful. Because I mean, we'd sent it to them kind of, we at the time we were asking to be published.
Yeah.
And we sent the thing, they were like, they were busy actually. They'd been doing Cyclops 2 at the time, I think, and we didn't know that because it wasn't announced. But they said they offered to play it and give us some feedback. We were like, oh yeah, sure, that'd be great. What we didn't realize was what they meant was on their live stream. So that was the first time Overcooked got massive public.
I remember Tim Schafer getting stuck in some stairs.
Oh no.
And they were doing a pizza level, and pizzas just didn't work, and they couldn't serve them.
But look, Tim Schafer, best case scenario, if he gets stuck, if there's a glitch, he's just gonna laugh it off and make some joke. It's not like he's just gonna stare directly into the camera and be like, "Fuck this game."
It's true. Yes. But at the time, it just hurts your heart so much. You feel like you're letting him down.
I'm sorry, Mr. Schafer. Questions about the first game. 2 very specific questions. The raccoon in a wheelchair. What's the origin story there?
Okay.
So the origin story for the raccoon in a wheelchair, do you mean the character's origin or how we came up with it?
I guess how he came up with it, but if he has some deep lore, I'd love to hear it.
I was going to go way back to he was born in a skip. So we don't really have one. Well, that's kind of a story, isn't it?
So we've wanted, because it's a local co-op game with a lot of, we wanted to try and represent as many people as possible. We had a whole thing about trying to get as much sort of racial diversity, gender diversity in the game as we could. And we wanted to also represent disability in the game. Now, basically the reason that there's a raccoon in a wheelchair was because we'd started moving the game towards more and more animal chefs over the course of development, just because we found that when you're trying to represent everybody, the easiest thing to do is to make everyone animals. Because animals kind of are universal in that they don't really have a gender, they don't really have a race. And so the raccoon being in a wheelchair is sort of like, it's a universally representative character for people in wheelchairs.
But there was this really great conversation we were having. We were like, okay, so which one of our characters is going to be in a wheelchair? We had to choose. We had to choose which of our many animal chefs.
Sort of dark in a way.
It's got to be the raccoon. It's just the best. All right, here's a very deep, weird question for you. Have you guys ever seen the Michael Keaton movie called The Founder about McDonald's?
No, I haven't. I know of it, but I've never seen it.
There is this sequence in that movie that is right up your guys' alley where he's like redesigning early McDonald's kitchens to get like optimal food flow. It is the most overcooked ass sequence in movie history. So if you guys are ever interested,
interesting.
I think it's up your alley.
Wow, yeah, I have to check that out.
Yeah, look into that. That's weird.
Okay, so Overcooked 2, we should dive in a little bit because Overcooked, it's so great, so lovely. It feels like the type of game that could be a living game. If you guys wanted to make it so what was the idea behind? Let's just go for a sequel and rip this off right away.
So Overcooked 2 kind of came about because the first game did so well that we got so many messages from people just clamoring for more, basically. So we were still a 2-person studio at the time, now 3, but we're not a big outfit.
Yeah.
And we just got loads and loads of messages from people constantly wanting more content and wanting online multiplayer. It was just like the big thing. Our Steam forum page is like hundreds of pages.
Yeah, there's a really dark 80-page Steam thread of people asking for online multiplayer.
Yeah.
It gets really quite hostile in there.
Do you have it pinned up on the wall in the office somewhere?
Yeah, we basically had this situation where the game was doing really well and people wanted more, but we couldn't really keep up with it.
Yeah.
So it was only when Debbie Bestwick from Team 17, she kind of approached us and said, well, look, we've helped you with the publishing side of things. We actually have a team available if you wanted to work with them. And we could maybe do a sequel with online multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were kind of hesitant about it at first, but we basically sat down with the team and we talked over like what we saw, what we'd want to include in a sequel, all the kind of mechanics and things we weren't able to fit into the first one or just way out of scope. 2-person's team.
Because the first game, we only had that sort of year of development or so, and we totally ran to absolutely no money. So we were completely exhausted at that point. And we had so many features in the first game that we wanted to add. So we had this long list of things we wanted to add. And this we just saw when they offered to, they had some people available, it was an opportunity to just add loads of content that we wanted to add in that time. And make a sort of bigger, more polished version of it. Kind of what we would do if we had a larger studio of our own, sort of, because we never really want to expand to being a massive studio, and this is an opportunity to do that we wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like with the first game, being small is so fantastic because it means that we can just change our mind all the time. We can make mistakes really quickly, and we can, we don't have to worry about steering a big ship. Whereas this time around, we'd sort of built the foundation with Overcooked 1. So now it's like, okay, we can build on that and we can expand on it. And that's when it's perfect for having like a slightly bigger team.
Because you've already got a direction. You know what Overcooked is, but you just can add massive amounts of content and mechanics.
Is it just that much easier? You guys have the workflow down and you can just crank out levels now pretty, not easy, I'd imagine, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it because designing levels is always a very iterative process with Overcooked. Lots of user testing is involved, just because the game is so psychological. Because it's a group of people, you don't really know how it's going to work until you get 4 people in front of it and then see what people end up encouraged to do.
You're also designing for 1, 2, 3, and 4 player combinations, which always changes the dynamic, and you always need to think about like placement of objects.
Yeah. Fortunately, Team 17 have an in-house sort of user testing lab. So we had people coming in teams and like trying out the game there because we had to be a lot more cautious with this game to try and do all of our user testing sort of behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to announce the game until we were ready and knew that it was going to be good.
So whereas last time we could take it to conventions and put it in front of people and nobody really cares.
Yeah, no one cared
about it.
It was fine.
Yeah, no one cares until Tim Schafer plays it, yeah. All right, so online multiplayer, what were the other things that all the forums were screaming for that you guys are delivering this time around?
So one of the things that we wanted to add really strongly was a sort of more these sort of transition levels, the dynamic levels, where you start off in one kitchen and then the game sort of transitions into a new type of kitchen. That was something that's going to require a lot of artwork. So the big example of that we've shown a lot in sort of demos and stuff in E3 was the hot air balloon that crashes into a sushi kitchen. And you sort of have to go from dealing with the just sort of simple salad recipes at the top to going crashing down and dealing with sushi recipes coming in at the sides. But obviously that requires a lot of artwork, which is something that we could only do when we had a larger team to do it. And I guess the other thing is recipes.
Yeah, there's recipes, there's new kitchens, there's just new chefs, just everything that we had, we're bombarded by from the community. People were just asking for more content, basically, and that was great for us because we had this whole bag of ideas we hadn't been able to implement just because we ran out of time. Well, and then there's lots of things. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it was one of the things that people were clamoring for as well. Is like, hey, make this harder. We've topped out everything. Are you going to have like any sort of challenge mode, or would you consider Overcooked 2 more difficult than the first?
So we kind of had feedback in both directions. We had some people saying the difficulty curve was too hard and there was some like bumpy levels, which I agree with. I think there's some levels where it definitely spikes it. But then, we have some people who got to the end of it and are just like, no, I want harder things. So that's one of the things we're trying to address with Overcooked 2. I think what we've done is we've smoothed out the difficulty curve at the start, but then we also have plans to build on it to make it more difficult, make it more challenging for like more advanced players.
Yeah, I think there are levels in it that are harder than Overcooked levels in the base game as it is, and also there's the hidden levels on the map. Yeah, those are very difficult.
Some of them are hard. Yeah.
So there we have on Overcooked 2 we have levels that aren't part of the sort of main campaign, but you find them by exploring on the world map. The sort of Kevin hidden challenge levels. Yeah. So those are difficult levels, and the end of the game is probably harder. I think, maybe. I'm not sure. There were some really unbalanced levels in Overcooked.
It's definitely one of those things we're going to be watching very carefully when the game comes out and just see how people get on with the new levels. We have got plans.
There is sort of post-release content as well for trying to make the game sort of have an extra level to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the Overcooked saga in general, is it the most fun you've had in the video game industry so far?
Yes, definitely. Hands down. Yeah. It's been really weird because I feel much more connected to the video game industry as an indie than I felt as a person in a studio in some ways.
Yeah, I think because you're wearing so many different hats, you're sort of you're more tied to the game because you know every single aspect of it, but then you're also tied to the community a lot more because you're actually having to face those questions and face the people that are responding and watching the YouTube videos, which we didn't really have before.
And we're actually going to conventions because I think the first time I ever went to conventions was when we were like just starting out as Ghostman Games because I'd never really attended one before. Because as a developer, you don't usually, as when you're working in a large studio, go to conventions.
Yeah.
And community interaction has actually been really nice. Like our community in general has been really positive for everyone. I think because it's a local multiplayer game, maybe
100%.
That hasn't. Yeah,
I think that's huge. I think people get in the mode of helping each other out and being friendly, and it completely changes the tone and tenor of a community, I think.
Yeah, and so our interaction with the community has been really nice. We've got really like sweet bits of fan art of people and some really nice emails about people saying the experiences they've had and all that kind of thing.
I think one of the other good things or great things about Overcooked is the fact that you don't need to be like a hardcore gamer to play it.
Yeah.
Like the controls are so simple that the difficulty comes more in how you work as a team than it does in like how competent you are at using a controller or how many games you've played. You can't carry the game as a player in Overcooked. You can only work well as a part of a team.
Yeah, it's all about your communication, not necessarily about how good at games you are in some ways. That was a happy accident because when we were taking it to conventions, it was, I think our first convention, we had like a 7-year-old kid play the game.
Oh yeah, so she sits down and at this point it's only me and Ollie who have played it.
Yeah.
And we're like heart in mouth at the moment. Okay, she's no way going to be able to cover this. But yeah, no, she just took to it, didn't she? So she instantly, because it's 2 buttons, right? You got to pick up and put down and then chop. So she was picking it up and she was putting it up and chopping and she fell in love with it. And it was really great to see, because even she was a little bit cautious, like, oh, maybe I won't be able to play this. But then by the end of the convention, she was going around and grabbing people and bringing them to the table and explaining the game. It's great. Just let her do it.
Yeah, and knowing that we had like controls that were sort of so simple at the beginning that kids could pick it up, then we started thinking about, well, we've got to keep that and then try and make a game where those kind of players, because it sort of naturally is a game where players that aren't necessarily hardcore gamers can play with hardcore gamers because there's it's the communication that matters and not.
I like the fact that it's not an easy game, but it's not hard because of the controls.
Yeah, it's a hard game that is hard because of communication.
Right. It's perfect. Why do you guys think you work so well together? What have you learned about each other over the last couple of years here?
Too much.
Okay, I'd imagine.
Too much. No, I think we work. The way I always answer this is that I think Ollie is devil may care, so he doesn't. I like to measure twice, cut once. You like to
cut everything.
Just cut.
The bad boy of the games industry.
Which sort of works in that I would probably have already crashed and burned by saying something stupid on Twitter. And I think there's a lot of, making a co-op game, I think you have to be sort of this, the game in some ways teaches you about communication.
Yeah.
And it's
well, we were saying, like, we've cooked together and we've been in the kitchen together and stuff since, and I feel like our coordination and stuff's got a little bit better since Overcooked. That's a big part.
It was weird, like, you get better at cooperating for, like, strange things like unpacking a lorry or, like...
We were taking a sofa up the stairs. Do you remember that? And we were like, we're pretty good at this now. This comes from Overcooked.
Yeah, because it's sort of like, oh, yeah, you're doing that, so I'm going to go... It's like building furniture, and building furniture somewhere.
Overcooked kind of teaches you that if one person's doing a job, you just leave them to
leave them to that, and then you go do things.
You guys are really improving relationships across the world at this point with the Overcooked series.
It's one or the other.
That's true. It's being tested, you know? You got to make it through the fire and come out the other end there.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot on Twitter, actually. I think that in China, apparently, they have a nickname for it, which is Divorce Kitchen.
Yes. It was being used as a relationship tester.
Yeah, which I like. I like the idea that, like, if you can survive the campaign of Overcooked together, then maybe it's true love.
It's true love then, yeah. It's like that.
Where's that coming from? Just the Chinese gaming community came up with that?
Yeah. It's a whole thing. Like, people were buying it as like a test.
That's amazing. How are you guys feeling about Overcooked at this point? I'm sure you're at peak Overcooked 2 exhaustion, but you want to like keep this rolling? Do you want to be known as the Overcooked studio moving forward?
We definitely want to do other stuff as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think Overcooked 2 will continue for quite a while, I suspect, with us producing extra stuff for it. We don't have any immediate plans to be like, oh, and now Overcooked 3, I don't think.
Yeah.
No.
More kind of like, okay, we've got Overcooked 2, let's get that out, let's support that for as long as we can.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a bit of a love letter to fans, didn't it, doing Overcooked 2?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, we've also got our, other prototypes and bits and pieces that we're working on. It's kind of up in the air, though. I don't think we have a definitive, 5-year plan that we're going to do as a studio. But
no, that's the nice thing about being small is that you don't need a 5-year plan. It's not like we have like a team of 100 people that we have to keep in work. It's just us. So we have been experimenting with little prototypes on the side. We have been, over the course of developing Overcooked 2 and Overcooked 1, to some extent talking about ideas for games we'd like to make. And there's a lot of game ideas that we have. We haven't gone oh yeah, definitely that's what we're doing in the next.
Well, like throwing, for example, in Overcooked 2 came about from another separate prototype that we had that was just like a throwing thing that we'd worked on, and we were like, oh, this would actually work well for Overcooked. That kind of got
we ended up taking a lot of the ideas for like future games and being like, oh yeah, we should put that into the next game, into Overcooked as well. And coming in, we got like the moving platform stuff.
Yeah.
All like in the...
Oh, gotcha. So some platformy type stuff. But Phil, you ever inspired by your brother, and Overcooked will be your Joe Danger, and then the next game you guys make is just going to be batshit insane?
So it'll have to be a procedurally generated. What's bigger than a universe?
Procedurally generated multi-universe. I think we'll probably not jump to universe simulation from here.
That's fair. Cool. Anything else you guys want to say about Overcooked 2 here?
That is out on August 7th, and you can pre-order it now. And, well, it's nearly out.
It's on everything. Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Switch.
Yeah, and then it's great.
It's gonna be big on Switch. Are you guys feeling confident in the Switch version?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's my favorite version. That's my way to play it. That's the way I play it with the original game. So
that's how I play most indie games now. Weirdly, it's I tend to get them on because it's portable and can play on planes and stuff. I've ended up playing a lot of.
Oh yeah. If your plane's delayed or you're waiting for a train, it's so good to just be able to crank out the Switch.
It's so silly. Even when I already own a game on Steam, like Iconoclast, and then it's like, well, it's coming out on Switch. Maybe I should just get Iconoclast on Switch. Maybe that's where I'll get into it. It's like, it's the same game. It just feels friendlier, you know?
Yeah, no, totally.
Well, I rebought Skyrim, and I've been playing through the whole of Skyrim on Switch, and that's a game I played to death.
Cool. Well, hey, Phil and Ollie, look forward to seeing what you guys do next, and congratulations on Overcooked too, you guys.
Cool. Well,
thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
Watch this video and learn from it.
Third time's a charm. 1.
Listen up.
Third time's a charm. 2.
Remix.
Third time's a charm.
Nice play.
Third time's a charm.
3.
Do you think you can handle it?
All your base arm. All your base arm. All your base arm. All your base arm belong to us.
God.
Battle bears.
God.
Chew on that.
God.
Armored dolphins.
God. Wow.
You like the beautiful girls?
Perverts.
You like the beautiful girls?
I bet you do.
Me too.
It could be a very useful weapon. Really?
They are finest things in life.
Everybody dance now. Everybody dance now. Everybody dance now. Everybody dance now.
Sounds kind of kinky. Sounds kind of kinky.
Yeah, I like it like that.
Cowboy style.
Yeah, I like it like that. I bet you do.
Cowboy style. Command and conquer. Red Alert 3. Command and conquer.
Red Alert 3.
Command and conquer.
Red Alert 3.
Command and conquer.
Red Alert.
The only thing I can say about that is, oh, snap.